Another round will bring you down. Another round won't save you now.
Yeah, reverse sweep coming up.
Big win for the Camelot Kings here.
And the Valkyries have done it not since week 2.
It is the D aside for the Oni Warriors, and they have pulled this game back from the brink.
But the rest of the Solar Scarabs follow up, down go the Titans, and Labra's got the first. What a 1-2 punch from the Bolts.
The damage comes from the Leviathans until Zapman puts them down with the snipe.
Defend their Titan, and the Tartar is Titan. Send us on to a game 3.
The Jade Dragons have come to play. 5 kills in 7 minutes.
Happy Friday, SMITE fans, and welcome into week number 2 of the group stages of phase number 3. All of this, of course, powered by our friends over at Alienware. Look, Halloween is gone by the wayside. You and I both know the moment November 1st rolls around, it is officially the holiday season. So now you got to start thinking about gift giving. And let me tell you, all this Alienware gear, it's the gift that just keeps on giving, whether it's ranked MMR, whether it's silence because of the sweet headsets, whatever it might be. Go online to smitegame.com/Alienware. Use code SMITEAW for a discount on that sweet gear, and you can gift yourself. Don't worry, you're allowed to do that as well as we move in to the holiday season. Shout-outs to Alienware for being our title sponsor here this year in the SPL Aggro. We are moving into our second weekend of the group stages here. Group A, a group that feels a little bit more cut and dry, but Group B still wide open.
Man, it's going to be fun because these best of fives, you know, we've seen a lot of really good SMITE from teams that have struggled at times. We've seen some less than stellar SMITEs from teams that have been pretty good. Really excited to see what the Kings are going to bring this week because we've only seen them play once and it wasn't particularly inspiring the first time around. So, you know, knowing that this is a must-win for them. Typically, you go into a best of 5 versus a team like the Valkyries that's really struggled. You're chilling. You know, you're not feeling too bad about it. But I think in the Kings' position, they might feel a little bit of pressure here.
Right, Group A feels cut and dry because the top 3 teams get out, and the 4th team is the Valkyries, a team that has struggled to win. But you have to beat, right, the scenario where you get out relies on you beating the Valkyries. You can't just show up, not beat them, and feel comfortable moving forward. If that's the case, then suddenly your set against the Dragons becomes wildly important. So Group A is where we'll start today, and then the Oni Warriors, a very important set to keep their hopes alive in Group B later on today against the Titans. Very difficult team to match up against there. Let's talk about this Kings team, though, because you're right. We see one set for the Kings last week. It's against the Leviathans. They get one game, which is better than the Dragons were able to do against the Leviathans.
Sure.
But a team that I think carries higher expectations than what we saw.
Exactly. And look, this Kings team, this is not the first time that they haven't played at their best at one of these events. So this, you know, this group stage, remember they missed phase 1 playoffs because they did not play well at that group stage, lost to the Scarabs. Scarabs took their spot. I think that this Kings team, they consistently show us great things during the regular seasons where they're able to be very creative. They're able to really change the way they're playing. I mean, you've got guys like Captain Twig and like Variety. They're playing very different things. Genetics has a huge god pool and is oftentimes banned out. Things are oftentimes going really well for this team, but they just occasionally have these sets, whether it's during the regular season or during the playoffs. You know, I don't know how much of that is the factor, but they just occasionally have these sets where they just aren't proactive on the map. You know, we talk about them being so great when it comes to farming and staying even and not falling too far behind, and even when they do fall behind, they don't end up losing like other teams should. They're able to keep deficits close. I want to see them not have a deficit. You know, that's kind of been the storyline for this team is, oh, they're really good at not falling further behind, but how about we stay ahead? Maybe that's the change of pace they need.
Especially consider the Valkyries, a team that, you know, struggles to close out games, but not a team, the Valkyries, that struggle to get some earlier leads. And
good point.
Especially when you look at Captain Twig and where a lot of those leads build up from for the Valkyries. Johnny, for the most part, for this Valkyries team. Twig specifically. If you're looking at a Kings team that has an opportunity to build leads early, maybe it's Captain Twig who can step up and make life difficult for the Valhalla Valkyries. Captain Twig himself joins me now for the pregame interview. Twig, first and foremost, thanks for sitting down with me prior to this big one. And Agro and I have talked about it a little bit. You know, Group A, I think cut and dry is the term that I've used. Top 3 teams get out. Valkyries, the team I think expected to drop down. That said, you have to beat them, right, for that scenario to come true. You dropped a set earlier to the Leviathans. Do you feel any extra pressure going into this set against the Valkyries? Do you feel like this is a must-win?
Well, it's obviously a must-win, though we can technically lose today and own the
Right.
Dragons tomorrow, and we're still fine on the head-to-head. But I don't know. This is our third best of 5 this year. Since we didn't have so much success in the playoffs, we just need practice on best of 5s under our belt. Since we've kind of choked 2 best of 5s so far, so we're feeling confident. Play loose.
Good. And look, this Valkyries team, Aggro and I just mentioned it, a team that struggles to close out games, but not a team that is immune from getting themselves some early game leads. A lot of that through Johnny. Do you feel like you personally have to be on point in the early game here to help your team get out to a good start?
Absolutely. I mean, the main factor of what's going to influence an early game is how well a jungle and support kind of set up their lanes for kills and counter gank and just ward. So yeah, it's a big deal for me and Sam, me and Genetics to have a good starts to the games. But as long as I think we relax and don't kind of get in our own heads when a start doesn't go well, then we'll be fine.
You guys should be just fine. High expectations for you, Twig. I'll let you get back with the team. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks.
Cool, calm, and collected for Captain Twig. Look, they need more experience in the best of 5s. This is a great opportunity to do so. They got a matchup against the Dragons tomorrow, as you heard him mention. So, if things don't go right against the Valkyries, you're not out of Group A by any means. I think 1 and 2 wins and loss, depending on tiebreakers, is still enough to get you through on how all that shakes out. That said, Aggro, the Kings would like to get it done today. You'd like to beat this Valkyries team, give yourself the clearest path forward into Group A. But the guy on the Valkyries that we've talked on a little bit, Johnny, can make life difficult for this Camelot Kings team because it's now the flip side of the coin that we've already discussed, where if you're the Kings, you've had trouble getting out to great starts.
Yeah.
Potentially an iffy matchup could be a team that can't close out games, but is good at getting good starts, and Johnny's at the forefront of a lot of that.
Yeah, certainly the Valkyries have improved in that area of the game, namely, getting these leads, trying to be a more cohesive unit, that kind of stuff. I mean, their drafts up against the Jade Dragons in the earlier best of 5, I was not a huge fan of. I thought that this the picks for zeros in particular in the mid lane, the Chang'e, the Thoth.
You don't love the Thoth?
No, did not love the Thoth. Didn't love the Chang'e. That's my main concern right now for the Valkyries is what is Zero's playing in mid and how effective is he going to be on it. But I think the duo lane has gotten better for the Valkyries. I think that Rafford and Amelito have gotten more comfortable. I think that Johnny has been as hot and cold as he was at the very start, but that means that at least there are games where he's really hot.
Yep.
And I think that Ducky has been is still the most consistent member of this team, which has not changed since the very beginning of the season. So for me, I'm looking at how they perform in their mid 3v3. I think that has been certainly a point of weakness for the Valkyries so far this year. Again, we all understand their situation. We know that that's a huge blow to them. But when we're looking at it objectively, how can this team win more games? I'm looking at that mid 3v3 to improve.
Yeah, and actually, Johnny and Zeros are kind of on opposite ends of the God Pool spectrum right now, where 5 out of the last 6 games have either been Chang'e or Thoth for Zeros, with one Neath game right there in the middle. Johnny has played 6 different gods in the last 6 games, so there's been more variety out of the jungle. Do you think that's something, though, that might concern the Kings? You have a jungler for the Valhalla Valkyries that has played 6 different gods in their recent matchups. It's hard to maybe lock down exactly what you expect him to play.
Yeah, I think that having different, if your mid 3v3 is struggling, I would personally be looking to make that a really consistent pick order. Let's prioritize it in this way. But the Valkyries have constantly tried to get Johnny on these different picks and giving him some later picks in drafts occasionally. So if that's the game plan that they think suits them best, I don't have a problem with it necessarily. But yeah, I mean, 6 gods in 7 games, something like that. Probably more capability to narrow it down a bit.
Absolutely. Well, as we move into picks and bans for game number 1, I'll give Captain Twig his day in court. He has played 5 different gods in the last 6 games. Just a repeat performance on the year-long Shen. That'll leave the Camelot Kings in that first pick slot. Valhalla Valkyries drop down to the second pick. They'll get to answer back with a couple priority picks of their own. I think Olara and Aggro, it's a discussion that we had on the waiting room today. I think a worthwhile discussion to have here. feels very counterable from
Yeah.
a lot of what we saw in week number 1. The Cthulhus, the Xing Chens, the Camazots. Not going to be really a factor in this one because the Valkyries prioritize Oleron high enough to just go ahead and take him away.
Yeah, I think that with the style the Kings play, they like to play towards these later game team fights. They prefer to wait until that stage. That's where Oleron is going to be at his best. So against the Kings, I think it makes some sense to take it away. But as you said, I mean, I've been pretty vocal about it. I think Oleron is pretty overrated right now, at least in terms of its prioritization. I think the teams are taking him way too early.
Do you think Stone of Foul is overrated right now?
No, I think that item's really good.
Yeah?
I think that item's really, really good. And I think it's good on good characters like Soul.
Such a good item on a bad character. No, not bad.
Not as good.
Misunderstood. Maybe.
Yeah, it's not a phase, okay?
Well, it's a phase right now. The Valkyries are in
A
the midst
banning
of
phase
the
in
banning
particular.
phase. That's right.
Yeah, thank you.
Stone of Foul, we expect to see that prioritized itemization-wise throughout the day today, throughout this weekend, and into the Phase 3 playoffs moving forward. So there are still some priority picks left open as the first 6 bands have rolled through. Terra, Odin round out the first 3 bands for the Valhalla Valkyries. Geb, Ardio, Loki, first 3 for the Kings. So you take a shot at Johnny. I guess, I think that makes sense. The Camelot Kings getting something away from a player who really likes to get out to early starts for the Valhalla Valkyries. Cthulhu comes to mind here.
I'm thinking Sylvanas.
Sylvanas has been very good, very strong, important really for Genetics. Gets a little bit of a buff there.
Yeah, I think Genetics has looked really good on that pick. It just gives you such dual lane pressure. It shores up your left side of the map. It's really good at brawling in the early game. It doesn't fall off super hard late because of the changes to the passive and how quickly you get back all of your cooldowns in the late game. It's not uncommon to be able to ult to pick someone out and then go to fire and then ult to finish the firefight.
Right.
You can oftentimes get those pretty quickly back to back. So I really like Sylvanas. I do think, speaking of gods that are somewhat counterable, I do think Sylvanas is one of them, but less so than he used to be. And with Odin off the board already, then that's one of the primary predators of that you don't really love. So I think I'd be okay with Sylvanas' first pick here for the Kings.
Has been picked twice in the last 6 for Genetics, won both of those games. And so that certainly would be a good start here for the Camelot Kings. Taking their time, thinking about this one.
Say.
Odin for Ducky was a good, strong pick, but Ducky has not played the Odin in recent matchups, something that has been identified against them. So all of this waiting, and we're just going to get down to the Sylvanas anyway. Good eyes there from Yagro and good thinking. The Valhalla Valkyries, for some of the same reasons we said the Kings have a wealth of opportunity in their first pick, the Valks now have a good chance to answer back. That said, the Valkyries break from the standard meta from time to time, specifically around the mid lane, sometimes in their support pick, sometimes in their jungle picks as well. And so maybe you get something for Ducky here that feels good. There's still some priority then in the solo lane.
Yeah, you could go Cthulhu in this spot. I wouldn't mind that for Ducky. I mean, Variety certainly could pull out the Cthulhu, though I don't know if he's played it at all recently. The Valkyries, I feel like, are the team that is probably the hardest to lock down what they're going to do in these picks and bans, because they just have the capability of pulling out a lot of different stuff. And like you said, they've been trying a lot of different things. I think Soul top 2 is really strong. It has good flex potential. You can put it mid or duo. I think it's good in both places. I think this god is just generally very strong and provides pressure wherever she goes. So I'm a big fan of picking Soul early because I don't think she has many bad matchups.
No.
And she has some pretty good flexibility.
And Stone of Foul.
And Stone of Fall is a really good item.
That's right. I got to make sure I pronounce that right. Is it fall? Or is this like caramel style of thing? Tomato?
No one says caramel or tomato. In America, no
That's
one
true.
says
No
that.
one says tomato.
Right. Or caramel.
I say caramel.
Why?
Because it's, I don't know, it's the way I say it.
Caramel.
Is it foul or fall, though, is what I'm getting at. Or
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know. You're the
I feel like
you're the linguist expert, right?
I'll do some research. Give me
I
a minute, I
appreciate it.
suppose. Yeah, go ahead and do some recapping for me.
No, you wondered if Variety had played Cthulhu at all recently. The last game of the regular phase in Phase 3, Variety did play Cthulhu up against the Valkyries. 5-0-3, so it was a good Cthulhu game for Variety there. And then it lost to the Leviathans on Cthulhu in the first matchup of Group A, 0-4-2. So some good, some bad from Variety and Cthulhu here as of late. But the Valhalla Valkyries, they are prioritizing their ranged damage, 1 mid, 1 hunter, we assume, unless there's some weird flexibility in here that we don't know about. But it looks like it'll be zeros on Soul mid and Emilito on Heimdall over there in the Hunter role.
Yeah, I think that this is overall a completely fine top 2. I mean, yes, you lose some of that flexibility potential, but it is still 2 safe backliners that give you some good pressure. You know, this doesn't. It does make you a team that's very good at pushing objectives, both burning Fire Giant and Gold Fury and pushing towers, but overall it doesn't reveal too much about how to counter what you're going to do. So I'm never going to criticize a Soul Heimdall top 2. I think it's totally fine. Nope. On the other side, getting Nike and Tiamat, you know, Nike providing that late game passive while still being able to bully the lane early, make some good rotations. Nike just kind of does her thing. Having that barrier formation up against 2 auto attackers is really nice. That we probably don't give Nike enough credit for, is just throwing up that shield and making it so that she's not taking any sort of return damage from those characters while the rest of the team is coming to help her. I think is really good. And then Tiamat for big man Tings is Tiamat for big man Tings. That's scary. Yeah,
I'm glad that, and this is another waiting room discussion, I'm glad that BMT back in the last few games on more standard mages. I mean, look, I liked his look at Sun Wukong mid in the sense that, you know, if somebody's going to play it, I think big man Ting's certainly capable. But did look much better, I think, against the Leviathans on that Tiamat pick, and so that's great for the Camelot Kings. The Valhalla Valkyries add some safety into their draft here as well. Khepri, absolutely an annoying pick to go up against here. And so you talk about delaying fights, giving yourself a second wind, or even opening up Johnny to the ability to dive in, play a little bit more aggressively, get that ball rolling post level 5. Khepri seems to be a good pick here for the Valhalla Valkyries. I imagine we're going to start to see some jungle bans rolling through in the last 4, both teams still needing theirs, we assume. And so Daji and Serket will both take a ban.
Yeah, I think that here you like the Khepri pick. It solidifies your backline even more, just sets you up. I like Khepri into Sylvanas a lot because he does not deal with that ranged root well at all. You don't have to commit it with the abduct even. You can just go, you just toss that solar flare, root him in place. Really easy to punish him for that. I like the Khepri pick into what I'm seeing here from the Kings, but I would be. I don't know that Twig is going to be playing something like Thanatos, and with Nike locked in, Achilles isn't a big of a concern. I think Achilles is pretty good right now, but probably not good enough to see jungle play. So I don't know if the Kings are going to be able to grab one of those premier executes in order to take out this Scarab's Blessing.
Twig has played, you know, a lot of different picks, as I've mentioned. One of them is not Achilles or Thanatos in the last 6 games, at least. Been a little bit more standard as far as the jungle goes. Daji was one of those
He used to play
games.
a lot of Thanatos, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I believe I was just talking about the Season 3 finals with Mifflin after Gore's
He remembered that far back.
Oh, God, no. No, I had to explain to him what was happening in that. Yeah, no, that's what was going on. And they picked Thanatos a lot, but it was for variety in solo lane at the time. But I do believe that Twig played it a good amount then as well. I think it was a flex pick for them, if my memory isn't failing.
Well, talk to me about this Gilgamesh now, aggro. You know, it since 8.9 faded out a little bit. Gilgamesh was massive priority in the jungle for the start of Phase 3. Has slowed down here a little bit as of late. Jungle seems to be his popular spot, though we have seen a Gilgamesh solo once or twice. Let's assume this is jungle for the time being. Is this a pick you like for Johnny?
Yeah, I like Sylvanas, or I like Gilgamesh in general. You know, it's a character that, again, can punish Sylvanas pretty well. I love the Jingwei pick against the Gilgamesh because that drop kick, you can just agility right away and you're safe. So I like that pick. I think Gilgamesh is good. You know, we've seen it a lot more recently with the dragons and combining it with the Terra just in order to get that insta-proc on the Terra ultimate. Then making sure that you're getting it on those carries really consistently. I think Gilgamesh is generally good. I think that he's still a pretty good pick. I don't love it against Tiamat. I think Tiamat kind of can shrug off his damage more than most other mages. You know, Tsukiyomi, Jingwei, these are picks that are generally pretty good, I think, against Gilgamesh. But overall, I think Gilgamesh is a fine pick. I'm just a little surprised that, you know, they knew the solo lane matchup was the Nike. I'm surprised that the Valkyries waited for Ducky's pick to see the Tsukiyomi and the Jingwei, you know, see the jungle's ADC.
Right.
I don't, you know, solo lane's certainly not the role that I played whenever I was playing, but feel like my solo laner could have probably made a decision on what they wanted to pick and then
Sure.
let Johnny actually get a counter pick later in the draft.
Well, the Kings prioritizing a little bit against Ducky here. King Arthur, not something Ducky's played in the last 6. Been a lot of RDO, been some Cerberus, been some Nike. Feels, though, and this is, I always like to frame it like this. When you come in as a big underdog, as the Valkyries are, at least giving yourself a chance out of picks and bans is priority number 1.
Yeah.
You can't immediately lose in draft, or else you stand no chance. With a Solheim, Dahl, Kepri, Guild, King Arthur, I feel like that is a nice, well-rounded composition that has at least given the Valkyries a win condition here in Game 1.
Yeah, I think that they crafted a pretty good comp because the one thing you're lacking a little bit with the Sol Heimdall backline is that you don't have great AoE. I mean, Sol's got a good AoE, but not great.
Right.
Adding in that Winds of Shamash and getting that huge AoE ultimate, raining in everyone, I think that that's really good draft building. You know, you've got good CC, good front line, good damage. It's a little bit single target, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I think the Valkyries have certainly done a good enough job. And if we're going to go with that same talking point of the Kings haven't looked great early in a lot of games, they've had to come back. Theoretically, if the Valks get a lead with Sol Heimdall, they should just be grouping as 5 and gunning it down. Just using that auto attack pressure. Let's get a Spectre, let's get a Shogun's Kasari, bump that attack speed, and start killing towers because this composition does that very, very well.
Well, I want to pose a similar question about the Camelot Kings then, because Twig in the pregame interview mentioned, and you know it's pretty obvious, that Genetics and himself need to get off to a good early start, get the ball rolling here for this Camelot Kings team. Between a Sylvanas and a Tsukiyomi, do you think that those two players respectively have the ability to do so?
Yeah, I do. The thing about the Kings is they've picked early game slanted gods and then still haven't really been aggressive in the early game, and then they've still won anyways when they're technically getting outscaled by the enemy draft. So I'm kind of just done looking at Kings drafts through that lens because it hasn't been super valuable to anyone. So I'm looking at the Kings draft holistically and how it's going to work in those late game team fights, and it's super good there, as almost all of their drafts are. I think the Kings, you know, if they get to play their play style, and the Valkyries, you know, get off to a good early lead, and then play really clean Smite in order to not let them back in, then it should be pretty difficult for them. But that's the thing about the Kings is that they've always been able to exploit mistakes very, very well. This team does it better than just about anybody. I feel like the Kings certainly have the tools. If the Valkyries make some mistakes, whether it be early game, mid game, or late game, I think this Kings draft will punish it heavily.
And one of those tools, Aggro, I think becomes Netrioid, a guy who has had an incredible year last year, has had a good look at a year this year. I look at Netrioid to come up big. The last time these two teams matched up, there was a Jingwei game in it for Netrioid. 4-3-5 is how that one panned out. Been a lot of Olrun and Izanami. Expect a big one here from Netrioid.
Agreed. This Jingwei pick, we haven't seen a lot of it. Excited to see what it's going to do. I think it can match up well against the Gilgamesh, like I was saying. But I think Jing, you know, Crit's starting to come back into the meta a little bit. Safety's important for ADCs.
Yep.
She still left clicks people well. Like, it's just another hunter that slams buttons later on that doesn't have to actually hit buttons, just auto attacks. And Jing can do that really well.
Feels good for me. Remember, you're talking about Group A and how important this one is. The Camelot Kings need to get a win here, but so do the Valkyries. Game.
Let's see if they can do it here. They need their wins in order to make it into those Phase 3 playoffs. Like Gore and Mifflin here
Hey, it's me.
to be able to take you through the Kings and the Valkyries. And they did not have the showing they wanted last week, Mifflin. It took them 3 games, unfortunately, to fall. Who was that? The Dragons? So hopefully having a little bit of a different peek at them. And I will admit, even though I saw Heimdall's soul, my brain didn't register that. I just assumed it was Emilito's soul.
Yeah, Emilito likes that pick a lot, but Emilito generally likes going for safe picks, so both of these could have fit his playstyle relatively well. And to speak to that as well, you said they didn't look so good earlier in the last couple of weeks. That kind of applies to both of these teams.
Yeah, that's
doesn't it?
true.
Both of them really hungry to find a win here today, and I think both have got some good traps for it. That said, I gotta favor the Camelot Kings, man. It just feels like the cohesion of this draft, the late game presence, the healing from Genetics, the scaling throughout the early on. I know Aggro said that you're not really concerning yourself too much so with the Camelot Kings early game as far as draft is concerned, because they don't generally like
They
to
don't
push
play
it
it.
there, but they've got great early and they're playing.
Wow, yeah, that was a good pull in the duo lane. Johnny potentially in a little bit of trouble here. Twig on the Tsukiyomi is someone that I want to keep my eyes on just because the jungle, that seems to be the balancing act here. Johnny has been a huge portion of the Valkyries gameplay Although I will say, Genetics and Netroid are not letting up. Imelito's going to be forced to Bifrost just to stay under the tower, stay alive. And they're still getting damage onto Raffer. He's lucky that pull isn't going to grab him in.
Actually, great positioning there from Raph. The second Emelito eats the root from Genetics, Raph says, well, if he gets pulled, he's just dead. That's just the honest truth of it, unless he's got the quickest fingers in the West with the beads. And so Raph says, I'll trade out half my HP bar, and I get to maintain my ADC's defensive relic. I like that, although the Valhalla Valkyries have lost significant pressure in the long lane. Good teamwork already.
And the good news is you've lost all that pressure, but there's not much the Kings can do with it just yet, right? A little bit of a Harpy steal. That's all they're going to get out of it so far. Ducky getting a little low over here. Variety doing a little bit of bullying. Hey, speaking of Variety, since I did that World's First Blood, Variety has one on tier, and I'm pretty sure it was mostly a solo kill.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, good for you, Variety.
Nice little tidbit. Look, that information's going to be burned in my brain. It took me 2 hours, I think, total to get the spreadsheet together.
Good
What
pull.
a great pull from Genetics. They get the damage on Emelito, but it's not enough to get the kill. Once again, the Bifrost is enough to make sure that there's enough distance. But it is all aggression from the Kings in the duo lane right now.
Luckily for Emelito, goes for Death's Toll with that starter item, so some sustain coming from the auto attacks. Cleave autos from Heimdall, going to get decent value from Death's Toll, but he's out of potions, so these next couple of pulls, well, the first one might drop him low, the second one could potentially kill, and Raph, still 2 levels off 5, can't really give you a safety net, not just yet.
That is the 1-2 punch, right? Like, 1 is drop him low, 2 is kill him dead. As long as you can get those, it's pretty solid for you. Raffer attempting to salvage this purple buff, won't be able to do so, or no, will be able to do so, as he helps scoop that up for his team. Now Genetics is rooted. And so the Invade still get a little bit of experience if you're Genetics and Netroid. But you get the buff for Emelito, and that's honestly a huge win considering the amount of pressure they've been under.
Yeah, he walked into it there. As Big Man Tings pushed against the wall, loses out on the beads. Should still have that leap available. Johnny, though, he's on the chase.
Oh, wow, and there's going to be a root, but there's that dash. Just enough to get the space, but Big Man Ting's in trouble. Low health. Johnny and Raffer maybe biting off more than they can chew. They're going to go ahead and fall back. Tings takes a little bit extra damage at the tail end of it. Twig is still hanging around. He just ticked over to 5, so that ult is available. That's going to be all she wrote.
Tings, great usage of the stun there, realizing that Raph is going for the abduct right then and there, drops the stun on his feet and saves his own life, considering he already used beads earlier on in that engagement. If that stun doesn't connect, if he's not getting rid of abduct, he's just dead. That could have been first blood. 3.5 minutes in, but good micro play from the Camelot Kings maintains their life. And as you said, Twig doesn't participate in that fight and instead clears out the wave in mid, which gives him a slight advantage over Johnny in the jungle. Now 5 to his 4.
And it makes things a lot more interesting. I mean, you know, you look at the Winds of Shamash, and they add a lot, at least in terms of setting up kills from what we've seen, and visibility, and, well, they also soak, well, that ability's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it does
but
everything.
Maybe not as nuts as the fact that you can displace yourself. Twig going for a gank over here onto Ducky, not on point with the call traps. And instead they're going to go ahead and walk away from this. Ducky's just fine. And I was going to say that it feels to me like Twig has a higher likelihood of a first blood. But so far, it hasn't proven true.
No, not just yet. Generally, you think Gilgamesh, once he ticks over to 5, can start to get involved. He's got a good target in Big Man Tings that no longer has the beads for at least a minute, but Tiamat able to immune out some of that damage. The leap to avoid the Winds of Shamash could make it hard for Johnny to get involved there. Maybe instead, we see him try and shift his attention over towards the duo lane. When I'm evaluating jungle gank pass, it's how easy is it for me to get a kill on somebody in this lane? You're talking about soul lane, that's a Nike. Almost a moot point, doesn't matter what jungle you're playing, you kind of don't want to participate there because they've got too many health bars. You think about mid, essentially double escape mid from Tiamat, as well as some damage mitigation once you get some power online, so you don't love your odds there in the late game / late mid game. But Sylvanas, that's a pretty good target, you know? No traditional escape. You're really only worried about the defense. Maybe that meditation plus Lotus Crown combo makes it a little bit less appetizing, but if I'm Johnny, that's where I've got my eyes. Winds of Shamash should be a death sentence for the tree.
Yeah, hard to kill him, but if you kick him in one direction and then slow him, he's not going anywhere. He is a tree, after all. They don't move much.
Not at all.
As it turns out. And Grover doing a little more work here for Sylvanas to make sure he carries him. It's been a much more interesting pace here because you can tell, I think, that the Valkyries want to get involved. The Kings are notorious for this team that, admittedly, in the first 15 minutes, they could care less about finding fights. Just off the mark with the drop kick for Johnny. And he has to jump back. A little bit of damage that he's able to deal towards Genetics, but that is pretty much all he was able to do before the turnaround started. He did just finish that Crusher, so maybe we'll start to see him a little more active, but it has been a pace for the junglers not able to find what they want for the Valkyries.
Yeah, not too much, but Captain Twig finding a little bit more farm on the other side. So both these junglers have been not super involved as of yet, but Twig probably has better scaling come late game, has also got an early lead, so Tsukiyomi feeling just fine. Johnny goes deep there just to finish off his quest, gets the Enchanted Buckler, and anytime you pick up an item that you can finish on Gilgamesh, something that doesn't necessarily hurt your build too much, is essentially like a 500 to 600 gold infusion, and Enchanted Buckler could just be that. Up against this composition of the Camelot Kings, maybe you go like a Runic Shield or something along those lines to control big man Tings and genetics. Could be an option for Johnny going forward, or worst case scenario, he sells it and that's just 300 gold in his pocket randomly, which is pretty nice. Just a, oh, thanks for the Gold Fury on the map.
Nice free little infusion into your pocket. Speaking of Gold Fury, not spawned yet. Nobody's taken that Scorpion on the left-hand side. Right-hand side Scorpion was almost immediately taken down. Twig,
ooh, close.
Man, almost, but not quite abducted by Raffer. So he's going to be able to stay alive, be just fine. Draugr goes down to the Kings. And we're looking at a 200 gold separation between these two teams. Twig's taking a lot of damage. There's going to be the ult from Zeros. But again, not enough to find the kill. The mana is low, the health is low, and Twig still makes it out alive.
Man, Zero's hit like every tick of the ultimate. Captain Twig just happy to maintain his life here. Raph taking offensive positioning behind both Netroid and Genetics. Has the rotation in from his team. Might as well pick up the Scorpion. A nice little gold boost for the Valhalla Valkyries to keep themselves just about even in this game. Actually a 300 or so gold lead for the Chaos side as of now. But
hey, you know what? That's that Buckler, baby.
Yeah,
he sold it.
Let's go. Easy Shillelagh for the boy. Johnny getting a power spike early on. I think the Valkyries are probably fine with this pace score. As far as late game scaling goes, it's pretty hard to beat double auto attack, a magical and physical hunter. I like it. They've got good protection for them as well. The front line is staunch between Gilgamesh, King Arthur, and a Khepri. If the Valhalla Valkyries' strategy is just facilitate, they've got a comp for it.
Well, Twig once again takes a lot of poke for his trouble. Ducky trying to get aggressive, Variety just handling him. But the Gilgamesh is getting a little far forward as well. Genetics seems to be caught out in the mid lane. Raffer follows him under the tier 1 tower, but doesn't follow enough to find anything. I think grand scheme, 9 minutes in, still game 1. It is a good time, though, to mention the fact that we have been treating this, and this group has been treated very heavily as a Valkyries sets are must-wins. Not just for the Valkyries. They need to win it if they want to be able to make it, but if you're the other team, it is your must-win guarantee, quote-unquote, for your trip to playoffs. I mean, if you're the one that potentially ends up dropping either just a game to them, it could be catastrophic depending on how the rest of the sets go. As of right now, it just says even 9 minutes in, no first blood. And as we had highlighted earlier, about 300 to 400 gold bouncing between these two teams depending on where the waves are, where the buff camps are. The Gold Fury is spawned, and in just a little bit we're going to get Pyromancer on the board. Maybe that'll open up the eyes of these teams.
Yeah, this is both teams playing the style that they're most comfortable with. The Camelot Kings and the Valhalla Valkyries, I like to consider the holdouts of the European style of play in the SPL. Back when there was an NA EU split, there was a distinct style difference in that North Americans like mud battles, they'll throw sand in your eyes, they'll break your keyboards and your knees at your back camps, whereas the Europeans, it's a more nuanced, slower style. I've gotten these mid camps a little bit more consistently than you, and that's accrued me a 3,000 gold lead at the 25-minute mark, and I've utilized that to get my Heartseeker a little bit more quickly, and that's kind of how both of these teams like to play. And as of now, one team getting the better end of it is the Camelot Kings. They've got some XP leads on the map, slight gold advantage as well. And the Camelot Kings, I think, have got some of the best macro play in the league right now. Between Greater Scorpions, Draugr, Totems of Ku, all these small neutral objectives that lead up pre-Gold Fury, pre-Pyromancer. Seems like the Camelot Kings have the firmest grasp on it.
Oh, Genetics was trying to make a play. Instead, the play comes to him. He's going to have some healing. He stays alive. And yeah, he dips down into the 200, maybe 300 range there. Missed a pull, hit a root onto Zeros, but pulled the ult out of Zeros, so I guess that's a win.
Look, that's what I was talking about earlier, in that Genetics might be the best target to go on, but he's also
the worst
a meditation, Lotus Crown, Wisp Sylvanas, right? Like, he is incredibly tanky right now. It's going to take a more concentrated effort. Had Johnny been there, had Winds of Shamash been dropped at the Sylvanas' feet, he's dead to rights, but Genetics trades his meditation, maintains his ultimate, and survives an engagement where Zeros lands actually everything, where he takes a fully channeled abduct, I mean, that's nearly best case scenario for the Valhalla Valkyries finding an isolated Sylvanas and still not able to hit pay dirt.
He was aggressive a lot earlier. Now it looks like that's going to pay off in the duo. No, he misses the root, goes for the knock-up in the ult. There's the pull, and there's some crits from Netroid. Finds a lot of damage, rings true, but Imelito walks out one more time. There's so many people have gotten close to death this game, and yet no one has teetered on to the great beyond.
Netroid's the luckiest player in the league. I just saw it. Double crit off explosive bolts only. That's Devourer's Gauntlet's Aussie. He doesn't have any in the build. Yeah, Netroid is incredibly lucky. If I'm Emelito and comms right now, it's like, okay, roll my eyes.
Johnny seemed like he was in trouble, leaped over the wall. We're going to have Netroid still getting aggressive. There's a drop kick for the disengage.
Nice pull!
And a great pull. Twig finally able to find first blood. Genetics making sure to set it up for his team. And now Zeros and Raffer just have to back off. They can't fight anymore.
No, Raph has to go on full retreat, but the 4-stack of the Camelot Kings on the left-hand side could net them the largest separation. Gold Fury pulled out. Raffer, you're on the way out, but you got to come back.
Raffer sees it, and Melito's here as well. Zeros hovering around the mid lane, but opts not to walk this way. Gold Fury, 1/3 of its health bar remains. And it doesn't seem like anyone from the Valkyries is going to be able to get here in time. A good zone from Big Man Tings. Ends up taking a little bit of damage in the process, but there's the healing. There's the Gold Fury, and the Kings get first blood plus an objective.
Big Man Tings jumped in aggressive up against Emelito. Should have at least had his beads forced out there, but Raffer wasn't close enough to look for the abduct, wasn't close enough to attempt the steal either. Attempts another steal, this time on the purple buff, but maybe playing with fire. I don't love him standing here. If he gets hit by that pull, he's dead.
Maybe too close for comfort, especially as you can see at 3 levels separating the carry and the support here. Normally not a big deal. But he's only got that Thebes online, not a lot of health to work with. Valkyries are going to try to reply in kind. That Gold Fury goes down towards the Kings. They're going to start up the Pyromancer. I do see Variety walk his way over here. Valkyries still manage to secure it. That is going to be the Sentinel of Zeus drop. Variety chasing down Ducky currently, goes in for the leap, and he's got backup on the way. Twig's going to arrive. Johnny's incredibly low. One shot is all it'll take, but he procs the res from Raffer, and that's going to be enough to save the life. Now Twig is too deep and has nothing to save him the same way, and he's going to go down.
That is an Omega choke from young Twig. You got to hit the first one. Had he done so, would have gotten the kill. Variety now in some trouble, trying to get aggressive on the map, and Ducky going to punish him for it. At least drop him down to about 20% HP and steal away some of those back camps. Yeah, sure, Scarab's Blessing ticks, but it ticks after the 3rd or 4th swing of Piercing Moonlight. Yeah, had plenty of attempts there to finish off that kill, and unfortunately for the Camelot Kings, was unsuccessful this time.
Maybe going a little too deep there. Well, no, it's just what you said.
Just gotta hit
you gotta
those.
hit your shots, as you call them. Unfortunately, goes down. What was felt like a monumental start for the Kings after getting first blood plus a Fury has now ultimately come into 300 gold between
Back to
the two
even.
teams. Yeah, so hey, the Valkyries more than happy. They'll take kills, you feed them in their jungle. They'll take Pyromancers if you let them. It's 14.5 minutes into this. And it's wild that we ended up right back here.
Yeah, who would have thought? Not me. Not that we'd get here. Keep your eyes on these neutral farms, be it oracles or mid camps, because I think those are the only points.
It actually matters in a game like this.
In games like this, it's the largest separator that you could hope for. Maybe we see some engagements around them, but both teams have been kind of pacifist running it, in that if somebody shows up, they don't like taking the fight. Maybe that changes here. Emelito takes a lot of damage. Netroid doesn't have the chase potential. Is just going to push some minions into the tower.
Still no built-in crit for Netroid, so if we see any of those numbers, it's just the explosive bolts.
Crazy.
There's a Wind Demon on the other side. Ikaval is not an item I expected to see today. We'll see what happens here. Genetics with a great ult to counter out the ult that came from Imelito, who is uncomfortably low behind his tier 2 tower right now. And he's going to have to play it safe. He's channeling his back. We'll see if he can get it off. It seems like it's going to be just fine.
Are they taking the
But
tier
that
2?
tier 2 is getting pressured. Tier 1 and mid is where the Valkyries are putting their eyes. And it seems like 3 members of the Kings are going to respond.
They're gonna take it.
We've got Variety, Twig, Tings here. And Netroid and Genetics having the time of their lives. The tower going to try to help out here. Twig is in a little bit of trouble, but he's going to get some damage returned. There's the Scarab's Blessing. And ultimately, Zeros picks up the kill onto Twig. They trade out his life for a tier 2 tower. In the tier 1 and mid, it's a weird scales of fate thing here.
Yeah, but one team came out ahead, and there was no lead beforehand. Now 1,000 gold, about 1,400 for the Camelot Kings, and potentially more if Emelito's out of position, and he is.
Oh, there's going to be the Bifrost channels, and that's enough for him. He does have to use both his relics to
Unlucky.
survive throughout all of that. But he gets out of there, and you know what? He got the purple buff.
He
So
sure did.
ultimately, isn't that still a loss because he used both of his relics? Feels bad, but it happens.
Yeah, maybe if he's super lucky, he can go pick up that purple buff at some point on the way out of base, but can't feel safe doing so because he's got no bastions of safety on the map as the Tier 2 has been removed from the left-hand side. I like the build from Emilito in that it makes sense that he wants to take the 1v1. There's some squishy targets on the Camelot King, so Icavale feels good.
Yeah.
But you're kind of playing at a deficit. You're no longer allowed to play up in your lane whatsoever because you're missing all of your towers. So I'm not sure that he's going to get the opportunity to utilize this build at any point in the near future. Instead, now he's saying, I got to look towards the team fight. I got to worry myself about genetics and variety because in the team fight, that's how ADCs tend to play, getting dove by Warriors and Guardians. And with the build as it stands, doesn't have the most efficacy against those roles. Primal Fury going to be spawning up very shortly here, 17 and a half or so minutes into the game, and should be the next POI for both of these teams to tussle over. Going into this engagement, I imagine we see about a 1,500 gold lead for the Camelot Kings. Experience largely even across the board as well. No level disparities because there's only 300. Make that 80 experience separating those two teams. This match is dead even, 17 and a half minutes in.
The ward coverage may be the most important thing going into the next fight, and a lot of wards deep for the Valkyries on the left-hand side. Theoretically, should be able to catch out and sniff out a Primal Fury if it gets started up by the Kings. And they are moving into position. It's going to be the Valkyries that want the fight. They're going for Twig almost immediately. He's half health. He's up in the air thanks to the King Arthur. They are looking for the blood, and they're going to be able to find it. Ducky, credit for the kill. Twig, not able to do anything for this fight.
Yeah, Twig not able to do much this entire game. He's 100% of the deaths for the Camelot Kings, and he gets to spend 100% of the next 40 seconds on the grayscale. The Valkyries, huge advantage.
Now they're trying to press that advantage the best they can. Variety
Good pull.
gets abducted, pulled into the rest of the team. He's about half HP, and he's going to use that Sentinel of Zeus. No, not. It's going to give you the shield proc from the Bulwark, keeping him alive, and that's going to allow him to disengage, but it's the Valkyries pressing the go button. They're trying to get aggressive. Good pull from Genetics, gets Raffer pulled in. The knockup is good, but the follow-up damage doesn't exist. The Camelot Kings don't have enough to work with here. Soon enough, Twig will be respawning. If they can keep this fight going, maybe he can have an impact, but it's 10 seconds plus travel time. That's going to be a disengage. Emilito had to use his ult to pull away, and what a good pull from Genetics. Keeps Ducky in the fight, but seems like that's better for the Valkyries. The damage turnaround is in favor of Ducky. He's looking for Genetics, and he's looking for the kill. Will be able to find it, and that is another one picked up for the Valks.
Yeah, Ducky says, oh, you want me here? Oh, word. I've been trying to get into your back line this entire engagement. Double stun from the King Arthur for the Valhalla Valkyries to pick up yet another kill on the tail end of this engagement. But as you highlighted, Captain Twig has had an opportunity to respawn and rejoins the engagement around the Primal Fury. It's the Camelot Kings going for the pull.
Twig gets aggressive. He recognizes, you know what, I might be 1-3, but I can still get something done in terms of zoning. The rest of the Valkyries have backed off. Variety going for a wide zone. Ducky walks forward. Primal Fury
close.
Secured by the Kings here. But it is the Valkyries that are looking for more once again. Netroid's low. Twig is low. He's going to heal up off the camp, but Netroid gets caught out. A good stun from Ducky. Maybe the return damage actually is too much. Netroid just kills him outright and punishes him for trying to do King Arthur things. And now it looks like Raffer's going to follow the same fate. Scared Blessing procced there by Variety. Maybe didn't need to, but it doesn't matter. They're going to have the follow-up damage to find the kill anyway. Maybe I got ahead of myself. Variety needs to close this out. Raffer has no health, no mana to work with, but no one can chase him down. And he's going to walk out of there alive, and that's more than you can say for Variety. He is teetering on the edge of death and channeling him back in a very precarious spot.
Big man Ting's dash forward to try and finish off the kill onto Raffer, but it's unsuccessful in doing so. The Valhalla Valkyries just reset a little too hard after that initial engagement. They essentially win 2 fights before the Primal Fury is actually pulled out. First shutting down Captain Twig, and then Genetics, removing the healing center of the Camelot Kings. You think would be enough, or at least I do think it would be enough for them to really push that engagement into their favor and get them an opportunity to look towards the neutral objective. But because it was such a long engagement, roughly 3-4 minutes, too many members of the Valhalla Valkyries were too low and could not stick around. Pyromancer now taken by the Camelot Kings absolutely for free, unless you consider the 10% of Variety's HP bar that is now missing a hefty toll, and I don't.
Kills read 4-2 in favor of the Valhalla Valkyries. 21 minutes in, the gold lead could be nothing further from that, though. 3,000 in favor of the Camelot Kings. The last couple of objectives that have been going their way. It's feeling pretty solid. Fire Giant, last big neutral objective standing, unless you want to count the Draugr way over there on the far, far left of the map. And I don't think, yeah, you know what? It's past 10 minutes. We stopped caring about that one. We'll see what happens. Twig has been an interesting case study this game. He is 1-3, and he is a lightning rod for his team. If everyone tries to kill him, it seems like it's enough, because guess who's not dying? Netroid.
Yeah, Netroid's not dying. Big Man Ting's undying so far. It's just Genetics and Twig who have fallen on the Camelot Kings, and we might as well just say Twig because he's the carry this time around. Tsukiyomi has yet to impress in an engagement. I'm not sure that Piercing Moonlight has actually fully procced. He's channeled the ability, but I'm not sure he's utilized the teleport portion of it just yet, generally dying before he's able to get that one off, which is why we're starting to see a shift up in the build. Captain Twig says, well, if I'm dying too fast, maybe I buy a little bit of defense, stick around a little bit longer. Cloak of Concentration is the pickup this time around. Could be potentially a Mantle of Discord. I think that would go a long way, or even potentially a Spirit Robe if he so chooses. All the CC on the side of the Valhalla Valkyries, you'd get plenty of just general power from that passive, but instead it is Mantle of Discord. That stun should go a long way to keep them involved in the fight. I'm expecting the Camelot Kings very shortly to group up around this Fire Giant and try and take yet another engagement. The gold lead, since we've talked about it, was 3,000, has already been cut just by neutral form down to 2,000. This game is, dare I say it, dead even.
We keep bouncing back and forth. Someone pulls the lead so far, usually the Kings, and the Valkyries pull it right back. A lot of weight on maybe the next couple of team fights, maybe just the next team fight, considering the pace of the game. 3 towers left standing on the map, a tier 1 and tier 2 in mid, and a tier 2 in right for the Valkyries. 4 towers left standing for the Camelot Kings. Both of their long lane towers are standing, and then the other 2 tier 2s. So they have a lot of work to do on both sides, really, to try and get to the Titan from where they're standing. Man, if a Fire Giant wouldn't help swing it so heavily in your favor. A lot of these fights, at least initially, have been starting off in favor of the Valkyries. We'll see if they can keep that up. Zeros, you know what? I've got to give him a lot of credit. 1-0-3. It's been kind of quiet. He's 4th on the player damage charts. But he's been doing really well with all of his abilities.
The ultimates are landing full ticks. Zeros has been a part of 100% of the kills so far. You're right to say it, man. He deserves all the credit you can give him because he's doing so much for his squad right now. The only one out damaging on him or on his own team is Ducky, and that's a solo laner, so I don't count. Maybe about let's say 9,000 of that damage was in lane just poking. So after that, not that impactful. Variety takes a good deal of damage here. No, I take it back. 10% of his HP gone, and that's going to be healed up pretty quickly. Variety could do no wrong.
Oh, Genetics, on the other hand, might be in a little bit of trouble. The Winds of Shamash have slowed him down. There's the Scarab's Blessing onto Johnny. It's going to keep him alive. And there's that teleport that finally comes through in favor of Twig. But it's not going to be enough. Well, I guess it is enough to actually get him the kill. It's just not enough to do the other thing he wanted, which is solidify the kill, because there's a, well, we like to call it Scarab's Blessing. It keeps him alive.
Well, at least you're close by, so you can keep the engagement going. Does pick up the kill onto Ducky, and the engagement keeps going. The Camelot Kings, they're diving deep.
Yeah, Variety trying to lead the way. The rest of the team joins them here under the tier 1 tower in mid. They knock it down, and they do it pretty well. They managed to get out of this one unscathed. They get a kill to boot, close up that kill lead that the Valkyries had by 1. And now Variety still potentially looking for more. I don't know how much of this he wants to fight and how much of it is he's just is fighting. It's a good zone either way. Raffer and Zeros occupied with the solo laner for the Kings. The rest of the Kings taking that Fire Giant, secure it for the entirety of them. And now they're going to continue knocking down these towers and looking for another fight.
This is the Camelot Kings MO. All right, we're 20 minutes in. We've spent the majority of the time just farming the map. All right, let's take one fight, one small win, one little edge, nets them. The largest neutral objective on the map. Variety, though, has dropped low, doesn't have the ultimate available, but Zeros is just peppering damage. There's no way this chase goes their way.
Whew, almost able to connect a pull there for Genetics. Seems like that should be enough to slow down. This is surprising. The person farthest forward on the Kings is Netroid, still looking for a fight. And it seems like he's finally getting reined in. They will be backing off, spending some of that gold. What was 300 5 minutes ago, not even 2 minutes ago, is now 6,000 in favor of the Camelot Kings. Where did that come from? What a wild, wild gap for them to pick up. And now they're going to be able to find even more. 2 tier 2s still standing for the Valkyries. It's gold in their pocket, an exposed Phoenix then left. Of course, all these buff camps, and even a Gold Fury all available on the board.
Yeah, and at this point, gold still is pretty important. We're starting to see some members of the Camelot Kings go into their 6th item. The Valhalla Valkyries all generally hovering around that 5th item, except for Johnny and Zeros, who have got just about 6 items available to themselves. So the Camelot Kings have got a significant power spike ahead of them once they clear out these tier 2s and the Gold Fury as well. Even could fall back towards the Pyromancer unless the Valhalla Valkyries decide to take that one with a small bit of time that the Camelot Kings have given them, and that seems to be the call for the Valhalla Valkyries. But tier 2 is still available. I don't think necessarily the Camelot Kings have to go towards the Phoenix, but with this slow back from the Valhalla Valkyries, they definitely have got an opportunity to try and push their way in. But gold still leading into their favor. I think the Kings are fine with a slower pace.
2 minutes left on the power play for them. And they're grouping up on the left-hand side. Seems like that is the interested Phoenix for the Kings. They're going to go ahead and start getting aggressive on it. A little bit of damage here and there, but not a lot done to the Phoenix. More has been done to Imolito. He's at half health. Varieties in the back. Sentinel Zeus gets dropped. The slow is wide, and it manages to connect on all 3 members of the Valkyries present. A lot of damage dumped into Zeros as well. The carries for the Valkyries forced to back away, and the Phoenix is still taking damage. They've got a minion wave joining them. This should make it a lot more easy work for the Kings.
It should. There's the Frenzy Pop. Raffer dropped low. The Valkyries trying their hardest.
Oh, there's the Scarab's Blessing. Saves Raffer's life. Doesn't save the Phoenix. They managed to burn that one down. Damage onto Netroid and Genetics. They've got healing, though, and that's going to help pay him off. Raffer's ult down. Zeros is in trouble, but maybe it's Variety who jumps in too deep. Doesn't have the ult. And doesn't have his life anymore. Goes way too far and eats way too much. Netroid barely makes it out alive here. The Wisps going to be necessary to keep the carries going. Johnny, low, Twig trying to find his way in and do what he can. There's going to be the ult, and he finds the ticks, gets the kill, but he might trade out his life. No, it's a double kill with the help of Netroid as he takes down Imolito. Now it's Zeros, who is a fish out of water. Big Man Tings takes him down, and now they can just run into the Titan room.
Just as Variety drew it up, we thought it was an overextension, a leap in with no ultimate. Well, that was true, and he does cost his own life, but 3 members of the Valhalla Valkyries, a tier 2 tower, and a Phoenix, a worthwhile trade. If you ask me, potentially notch another Phoenix onto that list.
They've got 30 seconds before anybody starts to respawn, so it's a 2v4 the entirety of this time. No Variety, maybe slowing things down. Minions with Tiamat leading the way on left. They're going to pour ahead into the Titan room, but the damage is onto Ducky. Thorns is getting a little bit of retaliation, but Netroid gets credit for the kill. Now you've got even longer to work with before you've got a full force Valkyries. The Titan half health. Kings take game number 1. Raffer can't do anything about it.
But Gore, I'm not convinced. I don't speak for Twitch chat or the analyst desk, but I am not fully convinced that the Camelot Kings had full control of that game the entire time. It was a back and forth battle experience for the most part. Largest separation for the first 20 minutes was about 500.
Yeah.
A paltry sum. Gold remained in the 2,000 just about mark for about 20 minutes as well. The Valhalla Valkyries, had they just won one more engagement towards the tail end, that's probably just a Valkyries dub. This is a close set so far.
Up to that one FG fight, the Valkyries were winning a lot of the initial engagements. It was just maybe overstaying or, in that one case of the Primal Fury, overbacking too much of a retreat for them that cost them a lot there. We'll see if they can turn it back around again. They've got 4 more games to try and do it. Here's the Kings lead 1-0. We'll be right back.
Gotta take off my jacket for this one. Oh, dude, this. No, I know he was supposed to take you out last weekend, but he got busy.
Game 1 over to the Camelot Kings, and this one, I don't know, it kind of feels expected from both teams, where there's some pushback, early kills from the Valhalla Valkyries, but the gold lead still remains in the back pockets of the Camelot Kings. And then ultimately it just kind of takes one fight where Captain Twig, who is, 1-3 at some point, grabs a few kills, and the Camelot Kings will take game number 1. And I think that's just kind of the idea here in game 1, Aggro. It's the overarching idea between both of these teams. It was a smooth, consistent effort to farm up and get strong for the Kings. It was some kill pressure from the Valkyries, but ultimately not enough to close out the game.
Yeah, I mean, this is the type of Smite that the Kings want to be playing.
Right.
They want to keep First Blood, past 10 minutes. They want to just get to those late stages and then out-team fight you because they're really good at out-team fighting you, and that's exactly what happened. Their objective control was good. I mean, obviously that play by the Gold Fury where they get the gold, then Dempsey goes a little bit too deep, and it kind of sets off a chain reaction in order to keep the game going in their favor.
No way.
Genetics, excellent on the Sylvanas as per usual. Netruid was good on this Jingwei. I thought Captain Twig had a good game on the Tsukiyomi despite the early to mid, or I guess the mid game not really going his way. And that's the thing about this Kings team is that they just aren't gonna stomp you out. And when you're a team like the Valkyries, who have gotten better in the early game, but have also gotten stomped in some early games, I think the Kings are one of their better matchups because
Right.
at least they're
Agreed.
going to get to go to late. At least they're going to have an opportunity more often than not to have some even late game team fights. So I think that I want to see this Valkyries team not get too low on themselves. Ducky had his head in his hands after he got killed by Netruid after that gold. You got to stay kind of even keel because I think that there's a real potential for them to be able to come back in this set.
Every once in a while, Aggro, the stage we set just kind of comes to fruition perfectly, right? And that's kind of it's literally what happens here in game 1. We're talking about how it's a potentially good matchup for the Valkyries. And that's what happens early in this game. They get some kills, but the Kings not a team to shy away from kill deficits, and that's what ends up happening down the stretch. How Ducky's the consistent member of the Valkyries team. He looks the best maybe on the King Arthur as the rest of the squad. And so, eventually the storyline with the Valkyries is eventually they'll start hitting, right? And they have improved. We're late in the year now though. And so now it's time. It's time. There's no. This team's growing. We got to be there.
Look, I mean, we're saying the Valkyries have a better matchup against the Kings. That all being said, and I do believe that, but at the end of the day, the Kings have played this style against teams that have seen way more success than the Valkyries, and they've won the vast majority of their games. So it is not to say that their style doesn't work, because it does. It does work against good teams. So the Valkyries can't just get to the 20-minute mark and go, oh, let's coin flip a fight and hope we win, because the Kings will beat you 9.5 out of 10 times in that situation. You still have to be the aggressors. You still have to do something proactive in order to get there. But where that tipping point is in the game is shifted later against the Kings than against most other teams. So in that respect, the Valkyries can try and make a play there. On the other side of the coin, the Valkyries have consistently, even whenever they have these good early games, played poorly around objectives and been unable to close games. And in that sense, the Kings might be their worst matchup.
Right.
Because the Kings have very routinely fallen behind, beat you on objective plays, and then beat you that way. So there are aspects that are favorable for the Valkyries. There are aspects that are very unfavorable. They've got to come out and perform.
There are a couple takeaways that I have from that aggro. One, feels kind of like a Jets versus Bengals matchup where the coin flip 9 out of 10 times, doesn't come up for the Jets, but it just happened to this last weekend. You run back that game.
It's really hurting you, huh?
God, it is pain.
You went top seed in the AFC.
Yep, not the North, just the whole AFC, and then we get stomped by the Jets.
Unbelievable.
We got a chance against the Browns this weekend. My other takeaway is this, and I'm glad production zoomed in on it, is regardless of the way their games go, Ducky has a strong support system in place, whether it's the Husky that we saw in the bed last week or this adorable creature that looks just so cozy.
I wish that were me. right now.
Right. Doesn't that sound nice? This is a glimpse into my life. I have a nice body pillow that I put on my bed, and for some reason that's like Ramsey's go button to, like, she wedges herself like up underneath it, like similar to how that cat looks, like she makes herself into a small little ball.
Yeah.
There's something about the body pillow that she just loves, but I just think she looks so comfortable.
I know.
And that cat.
It's
looks
getting
absolutely
colder, you know.
Right. Don't you want to eat?
I want to stay in bed.
Maybe we just bring blankets into the studio.
Okay.
We wrap up and we.
I've got a really big weighted blanket. It's too
You're a
small.
weighted blanket guy?
I'm a huge weighted blanket guy. It's too small for us to share it on the desk.
Well, I could slide my chair over
But
there.
if we slid over, it would fit. It's
like
queen
on
size.
one. This is a 3-piece desk.
Yeah.
You know, we could share one piece with the weighted blanket.
100%. We could probably share two.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if I want to be in the last segment over there?
Fine by me.
All right, sweet. That works for me. Let's jump into the important segment, and that's the picks and bans for game number 2. And the Valhalla Valkyries have stuck with similar ban presence. Olarun, Terra, Odin, all taken away. On the other side, Khepri is the big pivot here. I think King's smart to keep taking away Loki from Johnny. It's been a strong pick and an early game presence that is already strong for Johnny. Just feels a little bit better when he's able to grab that Loki pick. That being said, the Khepri pivot leaves something else open, and it is the Geb this time around. And we liked the Sylvanas for genetics. I think the Geb is also a pick that has worked for this Camelot Kings team.
Yeah, Geb is a god that you should just pick, period, because teams don't seem to be on that same page, to my surprise. But the Kings, think about how long they took on their first pick of the Sylvanas. You know, they were running down the bank time. We were burning the midnight oil.
I haven't gotten the Hindu Man update in a little while, because I remember he was very concerned when Geb got the buff. Because he's been a Geb truther for
Since
years
long
now.
before you started.
Right? And so I haven't gotten the Hindu Man update on whether or not he's happy with the... Well, he's happy because Geb's good. But he also liked underrated Geb because, you know, there was never any concern for nerf. So
Maybe he is still underrated because teams aren't first picking him when given the opportunity at times. I think that means he's underrated because I think he is where he should be right now. Well, he should be in the ban column.
Every god in the games, we have no bans. Aliens have the death beam pointed at Earth. Half-court shot to win the game.
Andre Iguodala. A.K.A.
Geb. Is Geb your Iguodala?
Yeah,
right
Geb. Well, no, because that would be wrong then. Right. But yeah, Geb is the best god in the game by my estimation.
All right, there you go. Soul Izanami is the answer here for the Valhalla Valkyries. Still sticking with the Soul, changing things up in the Hunter department instead of the Heimdall. Did you see enough? I don't know. It's always hard. I was going to ask if you saw enough out of the Soul to feel some confidence, but I think it's difficult when the game goes the way it does for the Valkyries to put all that much stock in that individual game. One, you got to look more at the overall resume of Soul. Maybe keeping a couple hyper carries late game on your team is the way to go.
Yeah, I think that, look, I mean, they went Soul Heimdall last time. I went on this whole spiel about how locking in your backline that early isn't too bad. I think it's fine. I feel the exact same way that I did last game, that I am unoffended by Soul Izanami as your top two. I think that those are both strong. You get yourself a good backline. But not yet have I seen anything from the Valkyries that's going to adjust the way that these fights should go, because you've gotten a significantly better late-game Guardian in Geb. I think Sylvanas better early. Getting the Izanami away from the Kings to make sure they don't get Geb Izanami, which is probably the strongest duo lane right now because Izanami erases all of Geb's weaknesses in the laning phase. She just clears by herself, so you don't need that help. I want to see the Valks pick a pressure Guardian, because if you let this Geb get to late, I think you have made it, you haven't lost,
right?
But you have made it a lot harder to win. So if I were on the Valkyries, I would be talking about what gets us pressure in duo. How do we make sure that they don't get pressure in duo? And then how do we play around the left side of the map? Because that's where the Valkyries, you gotta try and take this Geb out of the game.
And King Arthur ends up getting picked a little bit earlier on this time. I remember that was something we talked about in picks and bans last time, where you're waiting till the last pick to pick the King Arthur, so a little bit of a change there. Ducky's not alone, though, in the cute animal department. I believe that was Twig's right shoulder that we were looking at there.
It was.
A nice cat hanging out in the background. It feels like we've seen an increase in the pet viewings on camera here recently, where in the past we've seen like the cat towers and things like that, but no cats to be seen. I'm happy now that we're starting to get a little bit more pet presence.
Yeah, keep it
on
up.
Screen. And that maybe scratches the itch that you had there, Aggro. Sobek getting locked in here for the Valhalla Valkyries. You feel like you're able to get some pressure with that pick.
Yeah, you got to pluck the Geb, though. That's the problem, is that if you pluck anyone else, even with the ping that he's dealing with, I think Genetics is a good enough player to shield a pluck on reaction and be able to just stuff that out entirely. So Sobek is one of those picks.
Whoa.
I really feel like one of my favorite picks up against Geb is something like Athena, where typically you would think, oh, we don't want to pick hard CC into a cleanse shield, but I just want to kill that guy. I want to kill the Geb. That is the most important thing to me. And so Sobek does that same style. I think that if the Valkyries are playing it properly, it should be hard focusing the Geb in the early stages, pick him out of position, make sure that we can isolate him and set him behind, and then hopefully that's enough to be able to carry us through the team fights.
Now this is unique here, Aggro. Not the Gilgamesh lock-in, but the Apollo lock-in immediately on the back end. It's been, almost a full year now since we saw heavy Apollo priority. It was right around this time of year last year, late in the season, where it was the double global ultimate Ratatoskr Apollo that we saw come to the forefront. And so Apollo, admittedly, Aggro raises my eyebrows here, but I think I saw personal eyebrow raise on the other pick, the Hunbats locked in here for the Valkyries.
Not my favorite, because look, if I'm the Valkyries, at any point in Smite, it's much better to just simplify it all down. You know, the game is incredibly complex. So let's just all boil it down to one game plan. And I think that when you've been struggling like the Valkyries have, making sure we are on one plan, and if that one plan doesn't work, we lose, that's fine by me, because at least we've got a coherent one idea game plan. I think the game plan in this game should have been, in my opinion, it should have been camp duo, kill duo early, pick a jungler that can gank duo pre-5, get us ahead over there. I think Hunbats does not do that well at all. Hunbats is a much more teamfight-centric late-game pick. I think Hunbats is fine. His win rate isn't impressive, but I would have really preferred to see something here for the Valks that camped duo early, that could be there for an early gank, and then continue to put pressure on the duo side of the map. Invade red, invade purple. That would be my game plan here if I'm the Valks, and I just don't think Hunbats fits that style.
Well, the Valkyries will have a little bit more time to iron down that game plan, make things crisp and clear going into game number 2. We've checked a lot of boxes already in this set. Let's check one more. Doing a quick remake. We'll go to a break. When we come back, game number 2. appreciate the patience, everyone. Something of mine that is running very, very thin as I sit here with Gormeister, Mifflin, and Aggro during those longer breaks. Not quite the breakdancing Dolson, but we got real close to that.
We got an
level.
espresso can ready for you if you wanna shotgun another one. That's where Mike tosses it to you.
He tosses it in. Yeah, that's right. No, yeah. To clarify, somebody asked under that thing, how do you shotgun an espresso? They're like the little mini cans, to be clear.
Yeah, like the little, yeah.
And I needed it. You know, it's a longer day. The sets went a little longer. Every once in a while, you just need a little caffeine infusion. Not something that I think the Kings need after game number 1. They're feeling the energy of victory and have a real good shot at doing so again here. Let's talk about the Apollo, though, because Hunbat's made us raise our eyebrows collectively. Does Apollo concern you at all here for the Camelot Kings?
No, I think Apollo is an acceptable hunter to be picking right now. You know, the hunter build is so wide open right now. You know, you can go for the Transcendence with the Bumbas and go with sort of that power slant, or you could go with Devos, you know, or you could go Aussie. Like, there's a million different ways to build hunters right now. I think that the build is really wide open, and so experimenting with new gods, you know, you're up 1 game in a best of 5 in a series that you're very favored in. If you want to try and sprinkle in some new picks, and remember that Netrioid has typically been very one-dimensional with the hunters that he's been picking this year, making teams respect another one that he could pull out, I think would be really good for them heading into the Phase 3 playoffs, assuming they make it there.
Agreed. That's where I think that's where my mind goes, is throwing a new angle at a play style. From what we're used to, especially for Netrioid, especially with the global ultimate, because that's really where, you know, Apollo sets himself apart, the ability to rotate into those fights. If you want to hang out on left, push down that lane a little bit further, rotate in, that's something the Camelot Kings can take advantage of. But with Gilgamesh and Nike both locked in, I assume it ends up being Gilg Jungle Nike there over in solo.
Yeah.
So now we've seen what will be a couple of games of Gilgamesh out of the jungle here today. And maybe a look back to some comfort here for Captain Twig, warrior-style jungle.
Exactly. Twig played this very well whenever this was the meta, and so now he can go back to it with maybe a little bit more damage in hand. I think that you've got a good amount of damage between the Tiamat and the Apollo. You don't need that much more coming out of your jungler. You've got great initiation for this Valkyries team, or excuse me, for this Kings team between the Gilgamesh and the Nike and the Geb. Like, those are 3 frontliners that really initiate particularly well. So we'll see if the Valkyries can end up punching through that. I mean, you're looking to use a Sobek pluck, but I don't think you really want to pluck Geb or Nike or Gilgamesh in the late game, so it has to get ahead early.
Valks, they do not want to have to reverse sweep this one. Camelot Kings and the Valkyries, game number 2.
See if the Valkyries can tie it up, or if the Kings can get themselves a nice 2-0 lead here in game number 2. It's Goran Miff once again. And Mifflin, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm having a hard time resetting my brain here for this game. We're having some fun. Dave, okay, we're having fun. It's not as fun when you can't see us, though.
Yeah, you know what?
Don't worry about it. We need more empty caskets to put aggro in, things like that. That's what we need around the stat. We're very big on prop comedy.
All right, Mike, you heard it. We want a treasure chest worthy of prop comic
I thought you meant like an actual treasure chest, and I was going to say we could just have a mimic on set. I got excited.
Okay, and the treasure chest has to be both sapient and sentient so that it can, you know, fulfill the role of a mimic. I agree with what the desk was saying a little bit earlier. I'm sure that Raph is very much so trying to establish pressure early on, and that's a blink-for-blink trade. Genetics forced to use it defensively. Raffer, offensively. If this Sobek doesn't hit the ground running late game, who are you plucking? Maybe Big Man Tings. He's pretty survivable. Netrioid, ideally. But outside of that, not really any great targets.
Aggro had highlighted as potential something we wouldn't put it past specifically Genetics to do, although right now it's not happening. Netroid's one hit away.
More!
All you need to do is find the autos, but they're just shy. Finally, Emilito hits it at the tail end under the tower, gets his first blood 1 minute, 10 seconds in.
Yeah, Netroid dashed aggressively against a Sobek Izanami lane? Probably not.
And they ate that alive.
Yeah, that strat works against almost any other god besides Izanami. Netroid dashes forward, says, okay, I've got full audacity, I've got some minions between me and him, surely I win this trade. Not the case. Izanami auto-attacks through
Poor
minions.
Geb.
Netroid, unlucky, and Genetics is playing Geb, so he's a non-factor until level 5.
That's something I was going to ask, you know. It feels like Blink for Sobek may be a little more important right now than the Blink for the Geb. That Geb shield not being available might have been the difference maker and making that first blood happen or potentially thwarting it. great start for Izanami. I mean, about as good as you can get. You get the first blood. Polar opposite of what this duo lane was having to deal with in game number 1. We get a, not just similar, the same matchup in the solo lane, and the same matchup in the mid lane. So it really is the one place that maybe things are going to change a lot. Johnny as well on the Swin Bats. Maybe expect to see him get impactful around that level 5 mark. Right now it is Raffer and Imolito driving forward their duo lane, and Johnny, as well as Zeros, stealing away a red buff. That might honestly cost Genetics a little bit more. No, they're not going to follow up for the damage. Zeros instead is the one who's getting chased down right now. Twig trying to close the gap. Will get a couple of autos. He's slow. They get the beads, and that's going to be enough for them to pull back.
Should be, but that red buff still stands for the Valhalla Valkyries, although successful in stealing it away from the Kings. The Kings looking to pay it forward here.
They're going to get aggressive. Hey, they are able to trade red for red. And that's going to be the retreat from Twig, retreat from Genetics. But a good pluck from Raffer keeps Genetics engaged on this. Shield's going to come up. He's level 3. Doesn't have a Cataclysm. Doesn't have much to get out of here. Rollout channeled. And he hits that CC immunity. Gets on out of there. Stays alive just barely. Now Twig is back into the engagement. No mana to work with for Johnny, and Zeros is low. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be enough to open up a kill for the Kings.
Maybe a blink block could be enough. Genetics slowed down here. One more auto from Zeros is all it's going to take, but this guy moves weird. Eventually does fall down. Soul notches the second for the Valhalla Valkyries, off to a quick start.
Deja vu, very similar to what happened for First Blood, was really low, a couple of autos go wide, and you're starting to get nervous for the Valkyries. They find the kill either way. 1,200, 1,300 gold lead now that they've picked up in 4 minutes. They have mentioned it, though. The Kings like to play late, and admittedly, not necessarily caring too much how far behind they are, although a much better start for the Valkyries this time around. If they can get even half the team fights they were able to in game number 1, this could be a really, really brilliant game from them. And so far, it's just been an interesting pace from Raffer. This Sobek is night and day more impactful than what we got to see out of the Kepri.
Yeah, I am loving this aggressive style from Raffer, setting up all of these engagements, playing annoying early rotations into the mid lane, and then now Genetics trying to pay that one forward may have cost himself a little too much, pushed into the wall.
Yeah, that's going to be the lockdown. One more hit. Zeros able to find a second kill onto the support, but now it's Zeros low, and Danger has to use the last of his mana to get on out of there, but he's going to be able to stay alive. Same thing can be said for Johnny. 2 ults down on the side of the Valkyries. They still get another kill.
They do. Zeros and Johnny low here. The Camelot Kings falling behind mightily throughout the early, not just gold, but also experience. We're still looking at a level 4 Captain Twig. Yeah, 2,200 experience at this point, and it's going to get worse. Before it gets better, another red buff invade goes the way of the Valkyries. Luckily for the Kings, the purple buff has already been confirmed, but neutral farm still available. Johnny going to clean that one up as well. The Camelot Kings, they're going to have to stem this bleeding soon. 2,000 gold, not too important at this point in the game, but it's a great stepping stone to get yourself into 3,000, 4,000. That's when it's completely out of your control.
There's fighting from behind, and then there's, okay, we're out of this game, right? And you have to play very carefully on that edge in order to control where they are. The Kings falling behind, well, not massively. Maybe massively, I guess it depends.
At this point, that's pretty big.
This early on, feels like it could be a huge lead for the Valkyries. We'll see how they can move forward with this, because we still have things on the horizon, you know, Gold Furies, Pyromancers, all like that. But the plucks, the individual targets, so far the Valkyries have been looking for blood and finding it.
I mean, the desk called it out. They said the Valkyries are likely going to try and play aggressively throughout the early game to utilize this Sobek, and that is exactly what they've done up until this point. Get a good look back now and how it's panned out. It was an aggressive dash that immediately cost Netroid his life and his beads, and then since then, the Valhalla Valkyries have been utilizing this draft incredibly well. The Camelot Kings are not out of it by any stretch. 2,000 gold doesn't feel great, but they're not out of reach, and they've got some great power spikes coming up. Winds of Shamash starting to become available at this point in the game, as well as the Cataclysm from Genetics to allow him to play a little bit more aggressively. I think the Camelot Kings haven't done the best job of biding their time, but they're almost to the point where they can start fighting back.
You know, in 2 of these deaths, this one as well as the First Blood, feel like they were kind of self-inflicted, right? Like, I'm watching that one, and what I'm seeing is, you know, similar to First Blood, Netroid dashes in. That one, Genetics kind of waltzes up to Zeros and is like, hey man, what's going on? And then realizes he's taking a good bit of damage. He's level 4 as Geb. He can't do anything in that position and has to fall back. It feels like some self-inflicted wounds, but then you have to look at these red buffs that have been going the way of the Valkyries. A lot of this other presence that has just been them playing the map well, which is what we were giving credit to the Kings in Game 1.
But this is not new for the Valhalla Valkyries. They've been able to establish early game leads pretty consistently throughout the year. It's how well they're able to transition it through the mid game, whether or not they're able to net themselves any of these neutral objectives, Gold Furies, Pyromancers. That's where this team has historically struggled and have continued to do so earlier on in this set. Whether or not they've made the adaptations here in Game 2 has yet to be seen, but they've already built themselves up such a nice lead that you got to think they've got a significant advantage going in towards some of these first objectives.
Now, if we start looking at this, it's a good early game lead. They, similar draft, almost the same draft, really, as what they had last time. They make some really key changes. Late game, it feels like it has some really good fight potential. The Kings have an Apollo, and we haven't seen him in a while.
That's true.
Is he going to balance out this equation? Like, the current builds right now, I mean, admittedly, all builds for carries feel like they should be good on Apollo, but some synergize way better. Is this going to be great for Netroid transitioning in the late game, or is he going to be just relaxed?
It's an interesting question. One of the ways that you can address Apollo in a competitive match is either you draft yourself a similar global, like Chernobog, or you draft pressure. And Izanami is the epitome of pressure. Not only does he have First Blood to his name, but he's also got just great scaling come mid to late, infinite pressure in the lane. So if Apollo does decide to leave an objective kind of just untended, if he leaves his tier 1, he can just kiss that tier 1 goodbye. Like, it's done. So, sure, you can ult out, but you're ulting out as a behind hunter, probably about a full level. You're also leaving an Izanami alone with your tower, so it's not going to be there much longer. You've also got potentially Gold Fury solo potential from Emilito going towards this very fast build. Doesn't have lifesteal just yet, but considering Aussie or Wind Demon in the next slot is very likely, and it seems like the Valhalla Valkyries agree, as they are going to be spawning up that Gold Fury very shortly. I think that with the lead already established in the long lane, Netroid essentially isn't allowed to ult out unless he really thinks it's a great fight for his team.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting position for him to find himself in. A nice dilemma is always good in the middle of a game, trying to figure out how they're going to use their abilities. And as of now, I don't expect to see either of them impacting a large team fight on the right-hand side. But ultimately, we're going to have some fun, I think, with where these teams, carries specifically, are going to be able to impact this. Gold Fury should be spawning up relatively shortly. No, it's sitting there already, waiting for them. But no big pressure. I mean, after that brief pause, it seems to have calmed down a little bit. I say that as I see Sobek in any sort of position in mid lane, and I recognize it could change at any given time, especially with Johnny about to have his ult back up.
Luckily, Genetics does just now tick over to level 5, so if it is a pluck from Raffer, he's delivering a Cataclysm to his own backline. This is the lead we were talking about, though, in the long lane. Emilito, 2 levels up over Netroid, 9 to his 7, and playing on the tower line, 1 auto attack, 10%.
Emilito's gonna take that.
Yeah, I wouldn't step up again if I were you, Netroid. Learn your lesson. Emilito pushing another wave into the tower.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, happy the Dark Portal isn't available. He's going to move forward, and yeah, he's got the minions with him. The damage is good. Just shy. Genetics is making his way over here. Look, 1 Geb versus, I see 3 members of the Valkyries over here. I guess we do have Twig hovering around in the jungle just in case. It still doesn't feel like it's going to be a great trade. Johnny goes in, takes a purple buff, and is able to leap out, runs to Raffer for some safety. There's the Winds of Shamash. They're trying to get rid of this tail whip. And there's the Cataclysm, but it's not going to be able to find enough. Instead, it is going to be the Interrupt and everything you could want from Raffer to make sure that his carry and his jungler get out alive.
Perfect peel from Raff there, but Zeros, man, put himself out of position.
Luckily, he's Soul, so he's just out of position and now back into a good spot thanks to Disapparate. Takes a little bit of damage. Variety continues chasing him. I heard the Fear No Evil, and that's going to be enough to lock down Netroid, get a kill. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Those Zeros goes down, and now Johnny's low. Johnny's incredibly taken down, but he's able to walk back a good jump, and he's able to juke and find himself a double kill. They trade 2 for 2. Genetics falls down with a rotation from Emilito, and ultimately the Valkyries come out on top, leading 6 kills to 2.
Variety doesn't have the ultimate available to put himself in a bad position. A pluck here from Raffer could do a good deal of damage to this Nike, but just off the mark. So that should spell the end of the engagement for the Valhalla Valkyries, but despite a sour note to end it, I'm sure they're very happy with how that one pans out. Red buff invade, purple invade, a couple of kills go their way as well. Zeros does lose out on his beads, as does Johnny. Blink loss from both the frontliners, Raffer and Ducky, but gold lead now expanded to 3,000.
Aggressive onto the blue buff, Ducky and Raffer. Raffer with no mana to work with, Ducky with very little to his name. And it's going to be a 3-on-2 engage from the Kings. They're trying to chase it down. Variety gets the silence. There's not enough CC to keep them locked up where they need them. Plus, it's the two front lines for the Valkyries. Feels like it's not going to amount to too much for the Kings. And they're going to have to just go ahead and write that one off.
And that should spell the end of this engagement. With Pyromancer having not spawned just yet, the Camelot Kings can't do much with the pressure that they've established on the solo side of the map, and instead have to let this engagement fizzle out completely. The Valhalla Valkyries doing a good job so far of utilizing their pressure across the map. Gotta highlight Raffer's individual player. Maybe a solo kills. Variety drop low.
Yeah, Ducky's doing the work that is necessary. A good leap from Variety gets the disengage. And that thwarts all hopes of the solo kill between the two laners. Unfortunately, Twig is right here. A good dropkick just shy of being able to connect. Ducky is low still, though. No mana to work with. There's the Winds of Shamash. He gets a dash. A leap from Twig closes the gap. One more hit is all it'll take. But Twig's just shy.
Goodness.
He goes just off the mark with an auto. And Ducky stays alive. Now the Valkyries take read of the map and go ahead and take heed of what they can do. Start of the Gold Fury. There's going to be a Cataclysm. There's a Fear No Evil. They're going to kill off Geb and kill off a Gold Fury to solidify even more of a lead.
Man, Genetics is just not getting the better end of these engagements, man. 0-4 on this Geb, 3 levels down on Raffer. The entire dual lane playing from a massive deficit from the Camelot Kings. It still is a 2-level lead for Emilito as well. And with that Gold Fury, the team of the Valkyries have pushed their lead yet again, closer to 4,000. This is exactly what the Valkyries need to keep going forward. And with Pyromancer spawned up, with a tier 1 already taken in duo, with such a massive experience gap for Emilito, I think he's allowed on the Izanami to start rotating out a lane. We might see more global presence from the Izanami than Apollo this game. I mean, he's level 10, and he's dying to camps, essentially. Netroid, this is about the best play he can make, sitting inside of his tier 2 tower for now.
Yeah, it's the Ikaval Aussie start for Emilito versus what is still a yet-to-be-stacked Devo's Gauntlets for Netroid. He's getting there, and that's what matters most to him, I think, as of this point. But you're feeling the impact out of the Hunter. Out of the Valhalla Valkyries, way more. 4,000 gold, or approaching that mark pretty shortly here for the Valkyries. Yeah, 3,800 is what they're floating at. Pyromancer's available. I mean, mid-camps, we were talking about them being very impactful last time around. Now it is the difference of, can we get a couple hundred gold going in our favor for the Kings? Team ults, look at the timers for the Valkyries. They're all about to come back up. The Kings haven't had much in terms to say for retaliation. Red buffs as well, already getting invade, and I think the Kings might just have to give this one up.
The Kings are playing without a support right now. A level 6 Gab might as well not exist on the map. He's also only got 20 stacks on Phoebe, so he's not tanky whatsoever. All Genetics can do in these engagements is blink in, drop Cataclysm, and hope that the stun itself is enough to set up for his team, because it's not the damage output, it's not the knock-up afterward. His Stone Shield is lacking mightily in points, so he doesn't get much utility from that either. He is an ultimate bot right now. Luckily, though, he's not worth very much. If he dies, who cares? He's respawning quick, and he's not giving up much.
Yeah, 0-4, trying to bury him anymore isn't going to do too much. There's going to be the Fear No Evil once again onto Variety under the tier 1. They kill him off. I thought they were going to chase down Twig, but they might just go ahead and take the 1 back away. 8 kills to 2. 12 minutes in, the Valkyries are really, really knocking this one home. They take down the tier 1 and Right as well. That's going to be a fallback to a Pyromancer.
The Valkyries are doing a much better job through the group stages now of utilizing their lead. Throughout the regular season, it was, all right, we're 3K up. Let's just hoard our gold in our own tier 1 towers. Now it's, hey, we're up a significant amount of gold. Let's go to these neutral objectives. Let's force some fights. Let's take some towers. Tier 1 on both side lanes, as well as the Pyromancer and neutrals. Stripped away by the Valhalla Valkyries. Thought maybe for a moment we'd see them go for a absolutely wild Fire Giant pull, since Emilito is on that side of the map, but they think better of it, and I have to agree with their decision-making not to go towards it. But I think the Valkyries have done a great job so far of not only staggering the neutrals, but creating space for themselves. Genetics is struggling to find farm just now, ticking over to level 8. The Camelot Kings, they've got to stem the bleeding somewhere. They need a tourniquet, they need a band-aid, they need something, because the Valhalla Valkyries are running away with it.
It is worth remembering, way back in Phase 1, the Kings knocked out of the playoff contention by the Scarabs at the time. the Valkyries potentially getting their chance to play upset. Especially with the way this game's going, it is a good position for them. 5,000 gold now, 13 minutes in. That is a really, really good chunk of change to have on your side, especially when you start looking at the itemization. A lot of tier 2s, maybe even tier 3s, where the Kings are only able to afford tier 1s as of right now. They're still going for the buff invades, not able to get that purple, but they're able to find Twig afterward. A good Fear No Evil locks him down, but it's not enough to get the kill. Just thwart him and get him out of this fight. Tings and Genetics forced to run away. Raffer trying to stay aggressive on them. A good pluck. Could potentially kill off the Geb one more time. Then you have to ask yourself, why bother when you can get something more worthwhile this tier 1? There's the Cataclysm from Genetics. He's trying to get aggressive, saves the tower. There's the crash down from Netroid. He's trying to join the fight. Will be able to find some damage onto Zeros, but isn't going to be able to find a kill. Instead, Emilito rotating over. The pressure comes with the Izanami.
And here comes the damage as well, not only to the tower, but Genetics ducky behind.
And now they're just chasing him down. Genetics isn't going to be able to make it out of that one. Tossed back to the Wolves, it's Twig, and that's going to be a double kill for the jungler. Johnny putting 2 more up on the board.
Man, Valhalla Valkyries, when they've got a lead, they have learned how to play around it. Tier 1 tower stripped away, and that aggressive positioning we saw from Raffer was just for the tower. The Valkyries were not concerning themselves with the engagement. It's the Camelot Kings that picked that fight, trying to defend that tier 1. It was a blink in from Genetics that starts off the fight proper, and he does at least get the beads off of Johnny, but that's all he gets before he loses his life. And now, the Valhalla Valkyries have taken every single tier 1. So if the Camelot Kings want an opportunity to show up around these neutral objectives, they need to win the fight, because they have got just about nowhere to run away to. Tier 2's so far away. With the chase down potential of the Valhalla Valkyries, I'm sure that they're fine taking fights in neutral territory. They're not concerned with the Camelot King's ability to escape. We even saw Netroid make his first rotation of the game in that fight. Lands a full dunk on a Zeros. It just didn't matter. Man's playing Soul. Did you see that gold for you go down, Gore?
I looked at you for a second, and when I looked back, it was 1 hit.
Yeah, Valhalla Valkyrie's got a lot of damage and a lot of time to work with.
Well, and this is something we were talking about in game number 1, right? You've got this double Hunter. We didn't get to see it come to fruition. Emilito fell behind. Zeros, while he had some really good abilities, didn't necessarily do as much. Soul kind of getting collapsed under the umbrella of Hunter for me here, but admittedly, Zeros is doing exactly what you need. He started up a ring just now. Otherwise, the build kind of hybrid, fits no matter what you want to do. But they have objective burn out the wazoo if they need it. And it seems to be very comfortable for them.
Yeah, Pythang's piece from Zero is going to synergize well with Emilito, so that lifesteal going to really be nice around these objectives. Fire Giant potentially could even be tanked up by Izanami. We haven't seen Stone of Gaia in a while in Season 8. Well, we've got one of those on the side of the Valkyries as well. Seems like they were kind of concerned with their ability in Game 1 to stick around in these team fights, to stick around and kind of match the sustain that the Camelot Kings had. Camelot Kings don't have Sylvanas this time, and the Valhalla Valkyries have drafted themselves a good deal of self-sustain as well as just self-healing. Seems like if the Kings want to win out in any one of these engagements, they need to win the initial.
And you had already mentioned it, but like this Geb right now isn't really impactful. I mean, you go back to where Sylvanas was, even if he was behind, at least it's healing. Now you've got Geb, and it's like, okay, sometimes there's a shield, and sometimes he's got Cataclysm. That's what we're getting out of Genetics so far this game. And even the last Cataclysm hurt him more than it helped the team. So we'll see if they're able to maybe get him back into this, which right now feels like maybe a necessity in order to find a win. I mean, we're approaching, I think it was like 8,000 gold, something ridiculous like that. You look at replays here, and at this point it might as well just be a Valkyries montage because of how much they're controlling.
Yeah, the Camelot Kings have not gotten much back in their favor, and it started early on, as you can see. 4 minutes in, already 2 kills for the Valhalla Valkyries, and they have not slowed down at any point. The Camelot Kings have tried. They've certainly tried to show up towards these neutral objectives, tried to slow down the Valhalla Valkyries, but have been unsuccessful in doing so. This play right here, I didn't get a chance to talk about it earlier on, but Raffer's ability to peel out in these team fights has been great. He's always finding the impactful tail whip. He's stopping Genetics from using rollout just about every single time. Raffer has really impressed me on this god. And
admittedly, it's one that, if I remember off the top of my head, has been the most successful for the Valkyries, at least in terms of wins. They've been able to find more on Sobek than some of their others. And this phase has been a wild ride for them, right? Because, again, you're looking at the Valkyries. Phase 1, start off kind of hot, then, like, Loki gets competitively banned for a little while, and they fall off the face of the planet from there. Phase 2, they never returned off the face of the planet. They were gone for a while. Phase 3 kicks off, and suddenly we see them getting, 3-game sets. We see them pushing other teams to the distance. And admittedly, for some of them, it was teams they were closer with, right? If they went 3 games with the Scarabs, not surprising. They go 3 games with the Warriors, not as surprising. But now we're talking about a 7,000 gold lead over the Camelot Kings, who have had a widely successful year so far. And you've got a 2-level lead for both people in the duo lane, 1 level for a lot of other places, but 3 in the jungle. I mean, Johnny is the huge impact player right now.
Yeah, he's making his presence known on the map. Blink away from Variety should spell the end of this engagement from the Valhalla Valkyries, with a 5-man grouping on the right-hand side indicates to me that they don't care about the fight, they care about the fire, and we've seen how quickly these can burn.
Normally 18 minutes is that magic marker. It's 17, and they're starting up the Fire Giant. Variety jumps in, Sentinel Zeus onto 2. And it's going to be the carries at that. Emilito and Zero slowed down, wins the Shamash, trying to collapse him even more. Twig gets into the backline, but he gets eviscerated. Netroid lands to try and help out his jungler, and they're going to be able to find Emilito, but it's a double kill for Zeros that bites back. Netroid is low. Netroid is going to fall down. No!
Really?
He turns one more around. It's the Valkyries collapsing the Kings, doing everything they can. Raffer goes down. Johnny, last man standing for the Chaos side team, and there's nothing he can do.
The Valhalla Valkyries bit off more they could chew. Fire Giant this early on with the Camelot Kings so close by. The Valhalla Valkyries knew they were there. They had spotted out at least 3 members of the Kings on the right side jungle. It's just as easy as that for Variety to say, oh, word, they're on fire. Maybe I leap in with my double health bar and just knock them up, make sure they're dropped low by our unofficial 6th man in the Fire Giant. The Valhalla Valkyries is where they struggled all year, and they stumble yet again on a neutral objective.
A big play for the Kings. They felt like they were out of this. Still close to, well, 4,100 gold separating these 2 teams. A lot of gold in favor of the Valkyries, but the kills now read 13-6 as opposed to what it was before. We can take a look back, see what Big Man Teams was able to accomplish through that one. A huge turnaround play, 4 for 3 in favor of the Camelot Kings. And a lot of it is that knock-up. I mean, just beautiful disruption coming from Big Man.
Yeah, he does so much damage in this fight. He does a great job of peeling back. He made sure that Netroid was allowed to stick around a lot longer than I think any of us would have expected. He sat at about 20 HP for nearly 5 seconds thanks to that CC peel from Big Man Tings. And what does that net? Big Man Tings, not just a prettier slash line, now sitting at 3-1-2, but also a 2-level lead over Zeros, who had been maintaining about a 1 to 2 level lead the entire game up until this point. Tiamat, one of the late game win conditions for the Camelot Kings, rapidly approaching full build, rapidly approaching level 20, could be the first one to tick over in the lobby.
You have to think Ducky, Raffer, Emil, all high bounties at that point. And anybody who scoops up those kills, yeah, you can bet they're going to be rewarded pretty well for their efforts. That goes over to PMT. Netroid's still a little bit behind. Emilito caught out over here on the left side, and that is going to be enough to find the kill. Netroid, Genetics, and Twig on the left-hand side kill off the Hunter one more time for the Valkyries, just for good measure. They lose the Pyromancer for that trade. But look how aggressive they're playing. They're going to be able to get a tower if they want it.
Maybe even more if nobody backs from the Valhalla Valkyries. Netroid does utilize the ultimate to close that gap, but interesting play from Emilito.
100-second cooldown, and he goes up, down, right?
Yeah, I'm astounded from Emilito, that just leaping in place there. Maybe trying to utilize the minion wave to block out some of those auto attacks, but had he known that Netroid was coming, gotta be worried about that dunk. Up, down, probably the only way you don't avoid getting hit by the Apollo ultimate. You're not really worried about Genetics auto attacks. Could have just leaped away. Maybe thought he could stick his ground and take the 1v1 up against Geb, but you gotta think that Genetics playing from behind at 0-6 isn't trying to 1v1 you. If he's fighting you, he's probably got people coming.
He's got something in his pocket. It's usually going to come to the format so far of a Gilgamesh or Apollo. Now he's getting aggressive. He's using the mist. The Kings were the ones that were trying to use this the most the other day. Set up ambushes in the jungle, all sorts of fun things. Small little pockets to hide in. And it's not going to be enough to change anything here for the Camelot Kings. They're still behind, but they're making strides forward every fight. That might end up getting corrected right here, right now. Genetics caught out. It seems like the level 13 Geb has a lot more to say than the level 7 we were watching.
Yeah, only 1 level down now under Raffer, and has gone for a slightly more selfish build. Mantle of Discord in that second slot, going to go a long way to keep Genetics alive in these fights. I'd say he's just about even in survivability. Genetics is back in this game.
Kings had started up the Gold Fury, leashed it, sitting about 2/3 HP, and it's just fine. A good pluck onto Variety pulls him into the back, but that might be where he wants to be. Doesn't drop the Sentinel of Zeus just yet. Instead, they're chasing down Raffer. Not going to be able to get the knock up from the leap. Raffer, CC immune, used lurking in the waters, and is now backing off. Gold Fury started up, this time by the Valkyries, as they're bouncing back and forth. Not going to continue holding on to that one. Leash it immediately. See what the Kings do in reply.
Johnny still has that ultimate available. D6 CC on his genetics means that pluck doesn't work out, so he's allowed to just walk away. Raffer dedicating a good deal of his HP to look for that.
Still has Cataclysm, still has Blink. Now that Gold Fury's at half health, Genetics is going to be the one to watch. It gets leashed one more time. Valkyries
Johnny
trying to make a loop around. Johnny going into the back, finds Genetics. There's a 3-man Cataclysm. Fear No Evil is able to help lock that down. They pick up 1 kill, and now they're looking for a little bit more. Ducky's relatively low. Variety still standing forward for his team. Big Man Tings, Twig, go ahead and join the equation and join the fray. It's a 5v4. Make it a 5v3. Netroid back in base using his ult. And go ahead and travel back over here. Gold Fury, 1/3 HP. Variety jumps in, gets a huge Sentinel of Zeus. Valkyries managed to secure the Gold Fury, and now it's whether or not they can get out. Ducky's low, needs one more hit. Variety is not able to find that, and he disengages. Zero is Mez, and Zeros is dead. And that's going to be 1 pickup for the Kings.
The Kings now, despite losing out on the objective, have got a decent opportunity to look towards the Fire Giant proper. It's 45 seconds left on Zeros. Maybe if they're able to take out Variety here, that's one way back in. Damage output's good from Johnny. Emelito trailing just behind, but Variety's got a team, and they're pretty close by.
Now Variety, he's just trying to stay alive, man, and there's the Fear No Evil.
Nice!
There's the kill, and what a follow-up from Johnny. But did he bite off more than he could chew? A great leap gets him out of there. Twig follows through, trades out 1 for 1, jungle for jungle, but it is so far favoring 3 for 2, with Netroid picking up a huge couple of kills, but finally taken out. Genetics is getting chased down. It is frontline v frontline as of right now. BMT trying to peel for his Geb. A good pluck right into the waiting arms of a King Arthur. It's just, can you get the kill before one of you dies? Raffer is getting chased by BMT. Can he get the kill is the biggest question, and finally finds it and makes it a 3 for 3, 4 for 3, because Zeros' death at the very beginning of that. What a wild ride.
That was a very long fight. That fight essentially starts at the Gold Fury and works its way all the way throughout the map, ending in the Camelot Kings Tier 2 mid-tower. Genetics, despite everything, is able to survive that engagement. Maybe an overcommitment from the Valhalla Valkyries to try and chase out that Geb. Ducky at least maintains his own life, but does sacrifice his Blink, sacrifices the Empowered Ultimate, sacrifices some of his support as well. Raffer falls down, but the Valhalla Valkyries have continually held on to this 4,000 gold lead. It has not expanded, and it has not gotten worse.
What a wild 5 minutes for it to stay exactly the same.
I completely agree. The Camelot Kings got to be happy with it, though, because one thing has changed, and that's the experience now in their favor.
Finally, something that they can start pulling their way. Look at that huge mountain of experience that was in favor of the Valkyries. That had a huge breaker. Granted, 3 members are already level 20 on the Valkyries, so some of that's not mattering, and you've caught up in most of the places where it matters. Level 20 to 20 in mid, 19 to 20 there. Twig needs 1 more tick. He might be able to find that relatively soon. Pyromancer started up by the Valkyries. It's going to be taken down, no problem. Good zone from Raffer. Make sure that they don't have to worry about too much. Johnny is the one to keep your eyes on, though. He's going for another loop around. Has his Blink, has his beads, and has Fear No Evil. The Valkyries don't seem to want to go too deep in King's territory, though, and they're going to go ahead and back away.
Yeah, Raffer, well, he's got a good look at how much damage Big Man Tings is doing right now, and it's a lot, by the way. A fully channeled first ability taking off about 20% of this Sobek's HP every single time, so Raffer probably going to play either a little bit safer or try and isolate Big Man Tings. If he can find the pluck while those beads are down, should spell the end of the mid laner's life. If he finds the pluck while the beads are up, could spell the end of Raffer's life. That's the knife's edge that Sobeks like to walk, that tightrope that they're forced to travel continually. I'm sorry that I just stopped talking. I just couldn't believe that I saw Raffer pull Fire Giant with nobody around.
Raffer walked up, mono-y mono, yes. FG, let's see who can take it.
Yeah, I think the FG might win that. It'd take a while, though.
I definitely know where my money's going.
Raffer just maybe checking to see if anyone from the Kings is nearby.
Yeah.
The Kings very privy to the fact that it was just Raffer on the FG, as they did have a ward in the pit itself.
And ward vision is going to be the name of the game right now. A lot of red wards around the FG pit, a lot of blue wards catching any positioning the Valkyries are going to be in. Notably, Exactly where we saw Variety catch out Emilito and Zeros last time around. They're going to go ahead and engage one more time. Cataclysm used by Genetics. There's the Tornado coming down from Kings. They're trying to get the damage. Sentinel of Zeus is good to get the slow, but a lot thrown out on the side of the Valkyries. Still Fear No Evil available on the side of the Valkyries to try and get things going for them. Twig plucked back into danger. He's at half health, but it's going to be Ducky who ends up falling down. Fear No Evil helps isolate Variety and gets the kill. One more hit onto Twig, locks up the deal for Emilito, and it's 1 for 1, 2 for 1, favoring out the Valkyries right now. They're chasing down Tings. This would be a huge kill for them if they can keep him locked down, but it's just so difficult to burn through his health bar. Aegis used, and it seems to be enough so far to get him out of there. Not enough to be said for Netroid or for Genetics. Forced to run away. Johnny continuing the chase along with Genetics. They're going to keep going. Good pluck. Keeps him locked up, but a good shield keeps him healthy. Johnny knows where he's going, though, and he jumps immediately onto the mid laner. They get the deicide. They get themselves an FG.
Johnny is playing the game of a season right now. 10-2-10 for the Valhalla Valkyries jungler, and you called it out during that engagement. Only one ultimate still available towards the tail end, but it was the most important one. Fear No Evil. He works his way across the entirety of the back camps. He goes all the way around the Camelot Kings to find a massive ultimate to separate the fight. He also finds Fire Giant for his team. All 5 members of the Valkyries get to put that one on their belt. And now with only 3 tier 2 towers standing between them and the exposed birds of the Camelot Kings, you gotta favor the Chaos team at this point. 8,000 gold, Fire Giant on 5, approaching full build. All your ultimates are coming back up as well, and take a peek at the beads from the Camelot Kings. Not a single pair available.
10-2-10. Yeah, that's Johnny right now. Not doing it all alone. Look at the damage numbers right behind him. It's going to be Emilito. Not too far behind as well, Ducky and Zeros. But still leading the pack in terms of kills. In terms of assists, he's only missed out on 2 total kills for his team. With 2 deaths to his name, you can have to imagine this one bats. Is giving us a performance that makes us understand, if you were wondering why that Loki ban keeps coming through against the Valkyries. You give Johnny something he can work with, and it changes the way this team looks. Very comfortable for the Valkyries right now. We had talked about it before, but it's 10,000 gold lead from the 4,000 they had before. The Kings, of all people, getting aggressive on a tier 2 and will be the first ones to find a tier 2 tower in this game, knock down the one on right, and expose a Phoenix.
The Kings willing to play a little bit more aggressively here, trying to make something proactive happen on the map. Makes sense to me. I think they were hedging their bet, saying the Valhalla Valkyries were likely headed towards the duo lane or already there, but the Camelot Kings wrong. Or at least able to pick up the tier 2. I think they would have liked to have stuck around a little bit longer. But this confidence is not unfounded from the Kings, despite being down massively in every single one of these engagements. Gold occasionally experienced as well, positioning around the Fire Giant. The Kings are not getting decimated in these team fights, barring the very last one that we saw. Very often we're seeing 3 for 3 trades or maybe 4 for 3 favoring the Valkyries. So now the Kings, when the game simplifies in a base defense situation, could potentially be able to stop this push from the Valhalla Valkyries. That said, the Valkyries, they're not playing the team fight game. They're playing the let's create space for our double hunter composition game. If Zeros and Emilito are allowed to make contact with these birds, thanks to the efforts of Ducky and Rapper, the birds are going to fall.
Missed pluck, or at least the beads burned, thanks to the pluck from Rapper. Damage being dealt to the right-hand Phoenix by the Valkyries. Variety had that Bulwark shield, but it's going to disappear. So ultimately, just trying to stay alive is the name of the game for the Kings. See what they can do. Minions not on their way just yet. It's going to be nothing but the Valkyries trying to move this one forward. The Phoenix is 1/3 HP. It's dealing some damage to Ducky, though. A good pluck onto Genetics. Pulls him right back into the fray. There's a Fear No Evil, and there's a kill onto the support. Emilito, credit for that one. 5, 3, and 13 for the Hunter. And this Phoenix looks like it should go down.
Expensive kill, though. Just about every ultimate down for the Valhalla Valkyries, barring Duckies, and you only get Genetics in trade. That said, the Camelot Kings have got plenty of ultimates still available, Variety and Net.
Had to use the dash to disengage there. I was thinking something was about to pop off, but instead they're just going to stand at the Phoenix line and be not necessarily timid. They've got minions now, and they're going to go ahead and jump forward. Variety into the fray of all 4. Sentinel of Zeus gets dropped, and that health bar gets burned through quickly. He gets tossed back to the Sharks, and that's another kill for Emilito. They are going on a tear right now for the Valkyries, but Twig's able to pull one back, gets rid of Emil, and that is going to slow down this push. This Phoenix should go down still. It's a 2v4. Genetics respawns. I think that's going to be the retreat from the Valkyries.
Raffer low, as is Johnny, but they're setting an ambush across the wall. Johnny eats about 60% of his HP bar in half a second and says, you know what? I like the idea, guys. This ambush would be pretty sick, I gotta admit, but here's the thing about how I am deathly injured. I am, so I'm gonna head back to base. The Valhalla Valkyries take out 2 birds before they are sent back, and they've only got 5 seconds left on the Fire Giant, so I'm sure they're happy with the pace of this one. Mid Phoenix gonna be down for the entirety of this next Fire Giant dance. Right Phoenix might come up towards the tail end of it. The Valhalla Valkyries, map state advantage, gold advantage, experience advantage. Not that it matters at this point, just only one person not level 20, and that's Genetics, sitting at level 18. That's essentially the support level 20. I gotta say, man, the Valhalla Valkyries, they've looked strong, and I think it's all off the back. I know that no team is consistent, comprised of one man, but he's 11, 2, and 12.
Yeah.
Johnny, he was going to make an argument that Smite games could be won off the efforts of one guy. This is about as close as you could get to it. This Hunbots is an issue.
It's been creating a lot of problems around specifically these objectives. Only one Fire Giant in this game gone the way of the Valkyries. 4 Furies, which I'm going to go ahead and say it. It might sound mean, but that's more than the Valkyries get in a week sometimes.
Is that true? 40,000 damage from Big Man Tings?
Oh my god.
Is that real? He's nearly doubling up the second highest damage in the lobby. He's legitimately doubling up the highest damage of the Valhalla Valkyries highest. This Tiamat has done work, 6-2 and 2 as well. Got lost in the sauce for a second there. The Camelot Kings have not been winning, but Big Man Tings has.
Way too far back for this fight as of right now. Fire Giant started up. Variety jumps in. Sentinel of Zeus gets dropped. And now the attention is all on him instead of the FG. There's the Fear No Evil. Spreads the front lines. Kills off Variety. And Emilito gets credit for that one. Genetics is low. But Emilito once again taken down by Twig. He finds an important kill. Genetics might get traded out here. But it is Twig and it is Netroid finding the damage. Netroid up onto the chariot. And it looks like he'll be able to disengage. But they got 2 important kills on the Valkyries to slow him down.
Nearly. Big Man Tings is able to find the beads and maintain his life here. But Raph has done 50% of the work now. Only the next pluck is going to be the most important, and it's going to be harder to come by as Big Man Tings will be positioned a little bit more safely going forward. 3 versus 3 if the Valhalla Valkyries decide to take another engagement before Ducky and Emilito respawn. Fire Giant does go to the Chaos.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it real with you. I thought it got leashed. I lost the fact that FG got killed in that.
Yeah, it was a coin toss, to tell you the truth. That could have gone to either team. But it does go to the Valhalla Valkyries, and they are going to bide their time. What was a Tier 2 tower and is now rubble on the map is taken by the Valhalla Valkyries. The gold lead expanding itself to just about 15,000 or so in the lead, 27 to 15, 33 minutes in.
It's a lot of kills. It's a lot of minutes.
It is. The Camelot Kings, they're nearly back in it. They're nearly full build. Just about everybody starting to look towards that 6th-tier item, except for Genetics, who's still working on his 5th.
And
10
20
on the Gab. Good lord, he has not had a great game so far. But the game simplifies. He's got Blink, he's Gab, he's got Cataclysm. It hits hard at this point. I think if Genetics is just blinking in, popping ultimate, maybe stone shielding Big Man Tings and nobody else, because Big Man Tings has put out 42,000 actual damage in this game, he's probably doing just enough.
Yeah, you know what? I'd give him credit. I don't care if you're 0-11, as long as Big Man Tings, like if you get one good play from this Tiamat out of your own death, that's worthwhile for the Geb. Yeah, absolutely feels fine. Fire Giant, normally we have this conversation, oh, but Emilito doesn't have it, so therefore it's a worse position. And that's still true for the Valkyries. But Zeros has it, and that feels like it's going to make up for that at least a little bit in the grand scheme of things.
I think if I had to choose one of them to have Fire Giant as far as dealing damage to a Phoenix, I'd probably give it to Zeros. Once you've got heat stacked up, he goes through these like a hot knife through butter.
Makes sense, Soul. Fire.
Oh, there it goes.
They're not butter. On the other side, Phoenixes don't know what they're made of. Bird, I guess.
I think literally fire, man.
Damn, you know, that'd probably be right.
Yeah, I think it's
that
literally
makes the most
fire.
sense. They are fire. They turn to ash, though. We'll see. Either way, it is going to be the left side Phoenix burned away, and of course the mid Phoenix burned away. There's going to be the Fear No Evil, and that's a lot of damage onto Tings. But as we mentioned before, if you're going to do one thing as this Geb, it is shield him and keep him alive. And that's exactly what Genetics does.
Big Man Tings is able to reset himself, but as are the Valkyries, and they've got a goal that's pretty easy to keep in mind. Right side, Phoenix dropped down to half, and should be easy to finish off.
Minute left on the power play to work with here for the Valkyries. Up in the sky is Netroid, and he
Good
comes
dunk.
crashing down on Emilito. But maybe too deep. Emilito stays alive. Twig has taken a lot of damage, and Ducky's trying to chase him down, but it's Variety who comes in from the side and finds the kill that is necessary. Gets rid of the Hunter, and his team stays alive in the meantime. Johnny, forced to run away, has no fear, no evil, but it's going to be coming off the cooldown soon, just has to stay alive. Gets the kill onto Variety. Now Tings, damage numbers, all we've been talking about, 47,000, and some of that is turning towards zeros. Disapparate keeps him safe for a little bit, but can it keep you safe forever? No! Big man Tings chases him down, but it's Johnny, Fear No Evil, back available. Aggression is the name of the game, and that's a big one.
That's a lot!
They get rid of Big man Tings. That's a kill! That's a quadra kill for Johnny, and now Twig is all that stands between them and getting the Titan.
Give it up!
For one more kill, jump in, finds it, and gets himself the Penta, and wins the game for the Valkyries.
You might call them a must-win set, but they will not make it easy for you, specifically Johnny. 16-2 and 14 for the jungler. This Hunbots cannot be seen again today. You better ban it out.
Whew, I gotta catch my breath a little bit. That
was hype. That was hype.
That was good.
That was the
is
Valkyries.
Such a good slash line for Johnny. What a hell of a game from a jungler.
Good lord.
And now you just have to hope he can do it again. To take a little bit of the wind out of their sails, that is such a great win. And it's a lot to now that you have to live up to for games 3, potentially game 4, if you're going to be able to close this one out. You just have to think about it. I mean, do you even ban it? There's so many good things out there. I don't know what you can do.
He just penta you. He just ban it.
He did.
To put Loki and Hunbots on the ban column and then hope you've got answers for the rest. The Valhalla Valkyries put us to game 3.
Over a year ago was the last pentakiller we got to see in the SBL. It was a jungler then. It was Cherio on an Erlong Shin.
A whole year.
This time, it gets to be Johnny on the Valhalla Valkyries. First penta of Season 8, and they take the game as well. We're going to break that down and see what happens in game number 3 right after this.
And in we go to a Game 3 after the Valhalla Valkyries bounce back in Game number 2. Jersey sales at an all-time high for Johnny after this one, and you can get yours at shop.smiteproleague.com. Of course, furnished by our friends over at the Inside Apparel Company. And it's that time of year. We got the onesies going on for the Valkyries as well. If you just can't choose a team to support and you just want to support the Smite Pro League in general, we've got SPL jerseys and hoodies and a whole lot more furnished by our friends at the Inside Apparel Company at shop.smiteproleague.com. A whole lot of sweet merch there for you to grab for yourself, including, again, a nice Valkyries onesie. Perfect for this time of year. And look, I will totally admit, and this is maybe my unconscious bias in a game like this, Aggro, that I was just waiting. I was waiting for the shoe to drop. I was waiting for the lead to go away. I was waiting for the Kings to turn things around, win the game, and send us on to a Game 3 up 2-0.
I thought when the Valks pulled that fire giant and the Kings
said,
beat
here
them
it
in the
is.
fight, I was like, oh boy, here we go again. But the Valkyries stayed much more resilient in this game, and we obviously have to start with Johnny because the man Pentagon to end the game. He went absolutely off. I was pretty critical of the Hunbat's pick in the early because of what it brought to the early game. Okay, thank you, I guess. The Hunbat's pick I was worried about because of the early game, but Raffer and Emilito dominated the 2v2 so hard that it didn't need the help from Johnny, and then late game, Hunbat's is fantastic. So obviously Johnny makes it work in that regard. Played really, really well in this game, was everywhere he needed to be. This Hunbat's pick was fantastic. He played these fights so well at the very end. So much fun to watch. Hunbat's such a dynamic character when it comes to the late game team fights. And he wins his team a game that was not guaranteed.
Nope.
Despite those Phoenixes being down. So Johnny goes up huge.
You're right. Not in any aspect. Wasn't guaranteed until the Titan fell down. There was pushback from the Camelot Kings, Big Man Ting specifically. But the pentakill is going to be our highlight at the end of the reel here. And we've seen plenty of quads that have ended up being stolen pentas by one team or another. I appreciate the Valkyries' coordination here. Never doubt their coordination. They all pull off of the fifth and final kill.
Wow.
And let Johnny jump in there. 16, 2, and 14.
That is
Johnny.
insane.
That's absurd.
He was a part of 30 kills.
That's absolutely absurd. The problem is, not that there is any problem, the Valkyries won. The thing that maybe feels bad for Big Man Ting specifically is that he did 48,000 damage on Tiamat, and it just simply was not enough. But I think due credit, and you already gave some to Raffer and to Emilito.
This was Raffer's best game of the season.
Best game of the year. I think they deserve every ounce of credit as well. Emilito had a good game on the Izanami, felt so hard to deal with in the backline a lot of those fights, took a lot of the pressure off of Johnny. The Hunbats was able to kind of run wild. And so now the set simplifies. You're down to the final few games here. If the Valhalla Valkyries are able to continue running with this momentum, remember this is a far from guaranteed group.
Yeah.
Now for the Camelot Kings, we'll see if picks and pans for Game 3 will shift things up a little bit. You imagine maybe there's some priority towards Johnny. You've been taking away the Loki. Maybe the Hunbat suddenly needs to be a pan. But just to recontextualize it, Aggro, the top 3 teams in Group A, between the Dragons, the Kings, and the Leviathans, have been seen as like the tougher 3, but the reason we framed Group A as, quote, easier or better is because the top 3 teams make it out, and the Valhalla Valkyries are that 4th team. And so that story and that trend only holds up if everyone's beating the Valkyries. Now, the Leviathans have to face them later on. The Dragons have beaten the Valkyries, and that leaves this matchup in front of us. And so it's far from guaranteed, and then the Kings have to play the Dragons tomorrow. So if the Valkyries end up winning this set, and the Kings lose to the Dragons tomorrow, I mean, you're starting to get into muddier waters here, and the Valkyries show us that they're able to compete.
Well, the big thing to me is that the Kings haven't won a best of 5 yet this year.
Right.
Twig mentioned it in the pregame interview that they are 0-2. Remember, group stages in Phase 1, those were best of 3s. And then they didn't perform well they were out their first set in Phase 2 playoffs, and now 0-1 coming into this game. So maybe this team just has, this team has clearly not been playing to the level that they expect, but the Valkyries played really well in that last game. Kronos Kepri. So this, for the Valkyries, man.
Are you letting some wind out of your own sails here in your mind?
Man, you just dominated on Sobek because they picked Geb, and you were able to take Izanami Sobek.
And Geb is still open, right?
And Geb is still open. You don't have to take Geb in this spot, I suppose. You don't have to. But at least don't...
You can still take the Sobek to...
Right. Pick something else so that you have the opportunity to counterpick the Geb if they take it here. Or if they don't take it here, then you can take Khepri ban Geb with the next pick. I don't understand this Khepri pick in this spot at all.
How about the Kronos? I mean, look, Soul gets banned away. Soul had a good game for the Valkyries by every metric in game number 2 there. Seems like the Valkyries, depending on if we end up seeing a traditional Hunter locked in at some point. The Valkyries love these magical ADCs. Kronos is the next one on the list. Olaron banned out. Freya and Kronos are kind of the last two there. We haven't seen a single game of Freya. Is Kronos strong enough to carry that mantle that Soul was carrying for Zeros in game 2?
I think Soul is significantly better than Kronos.
I don't think you're overextending much by saying that.
By
but can you match that?
No.
No.
So what Kronos brings is very different than what Soul does. Soul is pressure in your laning phase, that she can fight early. Her 2v2 in mid is really good because she has a slow, and her autos hit harder than anyone's at that stage of the game whenever her passive is stacked. So, having those, and then she transitions into this hard to dive, AoE team fighter that kills objectives really fast. All of those things are really good. The only thing that Kronos does, that Soul does, that I just mentioned, was that he kills objectives and towers really fast in the late game. And he does that better than Soul, because Accelerate is a crazy ability. But his AoE is non-existent. His pressure is non-existent. He's very easy to dive and kill. That's why it pairs pretty well with the Khepri. But I think they're completely different, except that they both can build Stone of Fall. That's kind of it.
That's a good thing.
That's good. That's not good enough.
Right.
That's not good enough.
And remains to be seen if it's for sure Kronos paired with Khepri in the duo lane. The Kings kind of split, I think, in their mindset on that. One Heimdall ban, one Neath ban. One of those would be more aimed at Emilito. One would be more aimed at Zeros on the Neath. The Valhalla Valkyries, though, a little bit more gathered in what they want to take away, and it's something from Captain Twig later on in the draft. It's going to be King Arthur once more for Ducky. Another good look at it in game 2. After a game 1 loss for the Valkyries, Ducky was kind of the lone wolf, feeling okay, I think, on the King Arthur. And then just a good piece of the puzzle for the Valkyries in game number 2. So on to game 3. Ducky will get another look at it here. So you start to wonder where Twig wants to go with his pick here. Aggro, the Daji off the board. Loki has not been available to him because they've been taking that away from Johnny. Now you can't have Hunbats or Serket. Erlang Shen has been a pick similar to the Gilgamesh for Captain Twig. That he's had some practice on all year long, and a good look.
Yeah, I don't love it against Khepri in general because, ranged root really hurts that character. Abduct is very good against that character, but...
Wow, it's a late team.
It just gets you that 2v2 kill pressure. It brings a lot of CC. Erlang Shen has a lot of counters and still always seems to be good in spite of them. So I'm fine with the Erlang here in particular for Twig. Very surprised that Big Man gets to reprise his Tiamat despite the loss, like you said, 48,000 damage, far and away the highest in the game. I think that overall, the Kings draft just looks a lot better to me. I think that the Valkyries are really lacking team fight AoE. All you have is Fear No Evil, and that isn't damage, it's CC. And so, if you can specifically push a frontliner into your carries, then it's going to look really good. But, a lot of times in Fear No Evil late games, you've got to take what you can get.
Yep.
And AoE really helps because you can still hit someone over a wall or, being pushed away from you. Kronos and Jingwei are all auto attacks, and so you really have to get them closer. It's easier to body block. You've got this Nike there. I don't know. I think the Kings got what they wanted.
The Camelot Kings and the Valhalla Valkyries will both have a little extra time to strategize before heading in to this tiebreaker game 3. We got a quick remake, we got a quick break, and we'll be right back for game number 3.
속 내가 네게 물어와 어떻게 된 거니 정말 이별인 거니 평행선처럼 좁혀지지 않던 우리 두 사람 어쩔 순 없잖아 더는 서로를 괴롭히지 말고 Let's be on our way 내일은 좀 괜찮아질 거야
Appreciate you hanging around, everyone, though I don't know why you'd go anywhere off a pentakill. Johnny looking to send the Valkyries onto a Game 3 victory here. He gets to run back the pick. But the drafts look a little bit different here, Aggro, going into game number 3. Do you think the Kings are a little bit better equipped to deal with the Hunbats in game 3 than they were in game 2?
Yeah, I like the draft a lot for the Kings. The Valkyries draft, I think, gets significantly worse in game 3 in comparison to game 2. So I like what the Kings are doing, but don't forget that, you know, Twig says, oh, we don't have to worry. We can always just beat the Dragons tomorrow. But
I don't want to do that.
let's be real. I mean, if you're losing to the Valkyries, you aren't in position to be beating the Dragons. Like, the Valkyries haven't won a set since August 1st. That was the last time they won a best of 3.
That feels like forever ago.
It was. And so, look, this is a big win for them. I think the Valkyries get a huge win up against the Kings. This is the best team they've beaten since Phase 1 because they've taken 3 games off the Scarabs total since August 1st and 1 game off the Warriors. So those have been the only individual games the Valkyries have won since Phase 2 started. So now we're into the end of Phase 3. To get a win right now against the Kings has got to be feeling really good. And they earned it. They were ahead all game. They dominated them. They had a good pick and ban. They outplayed them on the battlefield. Everything went well for the Valkyries. So let's try and keep that momentum rolling. And I think that the Kings, you know, they don't forget that they haven't played well, that they haven't won a best of 5, that they've struggled in these big moments. And now you're even up against the Valks. If they don't come out and play with confidence, I think the Valkyries, despite I think having a worse draft, still have a really good chance to win the mental game. And then if you go up 2-1, how do they recover from that? You know, so a very important game 3 here for sure.
It's those mid-set adjustments that are suddenly going to be important.
Yeah.
I'll run with the joke. Your friend Mo is on the other line. Momentum.
Yep.
I finished it this time though, so it's my joke now, and I think that's just.
But it's my friend.
No, we hung out once without you actually. Yeah, we went and played pickleball together.
Really?
Can you believe it?
No.
Yeah. Totally incorrect.
Dave, what's that front part of the pickleball court called? Or, you know, where you can't stand?
The net?
No, the part you can't stand.
The partition.
No.
The kitchen.
Mifflin, stop talking into your microphone.
He said it and I still got it wrong. I thought he said partition. This is so
You
important in a best of 5 set. Game number 3, when you're all tied up at 1, suddenly changes the face of everything. Especially if the Valkyries, momentum jokes aside, are able to ride some of that into a game 3 win. You go up 2-1. Look, if you're a team that's just scraping together a win here, a win there all year long, bringing yourself just 1 win away from winning these best of 5 sets, so important. And you're starting to now look, if this is another Valkyries win despite a worse draft, then it's a mental check for the Camelot Kings. You got to win a couple straight.
Yeah.
That said, I think the Kings have given themselves a great chance here in game number 3 to turn this set around. This is a big one. Game 3 between the Kings and the Valks.
See if they can pick up game number 2 back-to-back for the Valkyries, or if the Kings have righted the ship and weathered the storm that the Valkyries are going to be able to cause there in game number 2. But let's look at it this way, Mifflin. Johnny's back on Hunbats. Ignore the rest of it. That seems like it's good in and of itself.
It is. It's good space creation. I think it's more so of a facilitator role for Johnny this time around, as Zeros is playing the late game hyper carry that is Kronos. And you know what? It is not often that I get to agree with Aggro, but I will do so here today on the cast. I don't love Kronos whatsoever, but I especially do not love Kronos up against knockups, the only form of CC that cannot be beadsed late. So, if your strategy is to, never mind, Rapper,
wow,
trouble.
What a pluck to be able to find him, the auto.
Okay, I should have just finished my point, man. I should have just gone.
Yeah, he's Capri, he's fine.
Yeah, he's got meditation. So anyway, if Zeros gets knocked up in the late game, doesn't matter if you can rewind time or if you've got beads, you probably die before you touch the ground, which is where Raffer comes in. I think Scare's Blessing going to have to go a long way in the late of keeping Zeros alive. But when you've got one guy who's going to be receiving the majority of the dive, that means that it's probably going to be pretty easy for Raffer to line those up. And with all that space created, gods like Emilito, guys like Johnny should be given a little bit more space to operate as well. I'm excited to see how this one pans out. It's kind of hard to reset yourself, though, isn't it? Considering we were looking at like a 14-1 Hunbots just a moment ago. Now he's back to 0-0 and even. Feels like, you know, I'm expecting these huge plays from Johnny, but we got to wait a little bit longer.
Just off the mark there for the pull from Genetics. Now this is, if you want to talk about it, and we've done this before, Sylvanas, you get pressure in the duo lane. Izanami, you get pressure in the duo lane. Put them together, and it feels like you are going to just sit on the opponent's tower line the entire time. Emilito and Raffer probably going to take a little while before they can really fight back over here. And so far, it's just been Genetics looking for blood. This is so similar to game number 1. Raffer gets locked down, half health. He's going to be able to walk out alive this time. Med's still on cooldown from the last time he was in that position. And instead, it's over in the mid lane. Big Man Tings finds Zeros, and Johnny has to watch on.
Yeah, here's the thing about how those knockups can come early when Captain Twig's playing Erlang Chen. They can, and that's exactly what happens. Zeros falls down early on. Now 1 level deficit in the mid, and Kronos cannot afford to fall behind early on. It is so hard to make a comeback on that god.
Something that they have to be very wary of. Already 1,000 gold setting up for the Kings at First Blood Bounty, helping out a ton.
When did the Valkyries, I missed it on the map, when did they drop their purple? That is the most desynced purple buff I think I've ever seen. It's still halfway to the respawn. They must have started in wave, and I just missed it.
We'll see what happened here in mid. Big Man Tings with a nice leap forward. That's about as straightforward as it gets. You had mentioned knockups being bad for Kronos. He got 2 in a row there. That Zeros just is not able to reply to. A clean first blood for BMT and a good early start for the Camelot Kings. Just shy of being able to find another pluck there for Genetics. You've got 2 lanes going exactly where you want them. And Variety's on the hat trick. 3 games in a row for this Nike. And it's been doing just fine. Even last game when it was losing, he had a lot of big plays.
Yeah, I trust Variety to pilot this god implicitly. There's no way I'm ever going to question him. On Nike, there was maybe 1 questionable play throughout the entirety of the last 2 games, and you're allowed at least 1 as Raf makes his questionable play. I thought maybe we'd see some more aggression there. Uses Abduct to confirm the mid camp, but Genetics doesn't have the root available, didn't go for the pull either, so it just lets Raffer reset himself. Maybe concerning himself with that meditation. Doesn't want to dedicate too much into what is a nigh unkillable Khepri at this point of the game.
Speaking of that meditation there for Raffer, a lot of beads picked up early on. 3 there for the Valkyries. 4 scooped up. Genetics has the beads as well. I think Johnny put the fear of jungle in them overall.
Yeah, the fear of evil.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, the fear of evil as it stands. Whoa! Dark Portal just shy of being able to find the kill. Some healing. The med used, the Scarab's Blessing not even available to him. Yet Raffer still gets to walk out alive, just barely.
Look, meditation has saved Raffer's life twice now. I am so sick of seeing the meditation hate in like casuals and in chat. That is probably one of the best relics in the game.
Ooh, big Fear No Evil around the red buff. Well, felt like it could be a big Fear No Evil. Secures the red buff, and that is all Johnny gets. A far cry from what we ended game 2 on. But still able to create some space.
These guys won't let me talk, dude. I want to do some analysis, some hard-hitting stuff. So anyway, meditation, really good.
Yeah.
It gives you healing, gives you mana sustain, but more importantly, keep your eyes on when Raffer decides to upgrade that relic. Once he does so, every single tick, every pulse, takes 1 second off of your cooldowns. That's wild.
That's actually really good.
That is insane. It's just good.
Now you want for something even more wild?
What's that?
Wait until Genetics hits. Is it 17 or 20? And he starts getting 1 second off his cooldowns just from his passive.
Yeah, that's also going to be crazy.
Also pretty good. Good knock up here from BMT. We watched his damage numbers cycle out of control.
Whoa!
What a good pull from Genetics, but no follow-up. Everybody else is on the right-hand side of the lane. So Zeros is going to be able to skirt out, well, a little bit further alive. Scarab's Blessing thrown out maybe too soon. Zeros going to use that movement speed to just cycle around. That is a huge ult offline for the Valkyries.
Not just Scarab's Blessing, but also Zeros' beads are expended there, so the Camelot Kings do a lot of work to open up a kill potential onto the mid laner of the Valhalla Valkyries. Ducky makes his rotation. Genetics might legitimately be in some trouble here.
Yeah, Ducky has enough lockdown and damage to get him half health. There's going to be a good route from Raffer, but there's nobody else other than Ducky trying to get the damage. The pull obscenely wide this time around from Genetics. But ultimately, the Valkyries showcase they have a little bit of bite back still.
I love your adjective choice, obscenely wide. That was egregiously wide from Genetics. Just a poor read from Sylvanas. Doesn't net him the pool this time around, but the Camelot Kings are at least able to leverage the space created to grab themselves a Scorpion, so Pyromancer going to spawn up shortly as Genetics tries to keep up his pressure. Aggressive dash in from Netroid means that, well, Hamelito knows that somebody's hovering inside of the jungle, even without vision there. So far, the Camelot Kings doing a great job in the early game to stop the Valhalla Valkyries from doing what they were able to in Game 2. It's actually nearly 2,000 gold already, 7 minutes in, favoring the Order side, and that is not a position you want to find yourself in when you have Kronos. Again, 2-level lead just about for Big Man Tings. Zero's just now ticking over to 8 to match Big Man Tings' 9.
Especially when you get into the nitty-gritty that the desk was talking about, which is realistically looking at these teams scaling into the late game. Ducky right now going to put that conversation on pause as he's in a 2v1. Had the lead originally, but unfortunately is going to get isolated and thrown back thanks to Twig's rotation. Johnny just on the side of the lane. We'll see what he's going to be able to do when he's able to join in there. If it's enough to save Ducky, the answer is yes. He is able to not only peel that away, but he goes in.
No way.
They are able to find the kill. Ducky comes back in, he gets the kill, and now Twig is forced to run away. BMT is here, and any damage on Ducky is a kill. That's going to be enough for the Valkyries to run away. They turn that around. They find themselves a 1-0 trade off of Twig's gank.
Ducky survived for so long in that fight. Mystical Male early on doing a lot of work against the physical soul laner and physical jungler of the Camelot Kings, and that survivability nets him the time for Johnny to rotate in. Ducky actually blinks back forward, re-engages the fight, and then jukes out Big Man Tings on the tail end as well. The Valhalla Valkyries certainly have some fight back, but they've got a good steep hill to climb. 8 minutes in, it still is a significant lead for the Order team.
It's a lot to try and make up for. I was trying to allude to it, but the desk had hinted that the late game favors the Kings draft heavily. And admittedly, they do have, you know, it's Nike, double health bar, Erlang Shin, good self-heal, which can equate to a double health bar. Genetics, that's healing. We'll see if they can do that in any of these early on fights. Genetics walks forward, good knock-up, good pull to start that one off, but Emilito still out alive. Raffer's low, Raffer's slowed, Raffer's Scarab's blessing himself, but it's not going to be enough to let him get out of here. 4 members of the Kings look to lock him up, and they're going to make mincemeat of this Scarab.
Easy for the Camelot Kings to separate that fight and potentially get even more. A jump from Johnny will secure his escape, nearly pulled back in by Genetics, but a little bit off the mark yet again. And there we saw the Camelot Kings kind of spearhead their way into the engagement. They isolate Zeros, force the rewind. Zeros puts himself behind the Gold Fury, and Twig puts himself in the grave, it would seem, or maybe a sick fight back.
Oh, what a good Fear No Evil to start it off, but Johnny's the one left looking worse for wear, limping away under the tier 2. Genetics is getting chased down. Variety's going deep as of right now. It's just a matter of who can kill whom. It seems like Genetics is in a little bit worse position. There is that Lotus Crown, that healing keeps him going. Twig's out alive as well. Johnny managed to heal up using his speed buff and back camp, so nobody's going to fall down. The Kings are looking for blood.
Man, they are keeping us on our toes here, and Ducky won't let me do any analysis. Going to keep that fight going. Forces the knock-up from Twig, but Raph is there.
It's a good route, connects, and Twig has no mana to work with. That's going to be a great abduct and keeps him locked away. A kill for Ducky onto the jungler of the Camelot Kings. Now it's Variety and Genetics versus Ducky and Raffer, the battle of the front line. But Ducky's starting this at half health. This is going to be a good start for them. Healing comes through from Genetics, and they're going to have to do whatever they can. A little bit of mitigation from Raffer to help Ducky out. And the rotation from Johnny. He just has to stay alive, and that's exactly what he does. The Hunbats comes over and helps him get 1. Let's see if they can find 2. Variety's low. Ducky peeks under the tier 1. No, he takes a step too far forward, and Variety helps turn it back around.
Yeah, Ducky feeling himself a little bit too much in that fight. Decides to stick around longer than he should have. But it is a clean trade from the Valhalla Valkyries nonetheless. It was a long fight, so I forgive you if you've forgotten. Captain Twig falls down, as does Genetics, as does the blue buff for the Valhalla Valkyries. So they are able to trade out all of that just for Ducky in this one small skirmish. And they've done a good job of closing up that gold gap yet again. Zero's forced the ultimate out here, but not in great position. On the wrong side of the map, and with plenty of people rotating in.
Man, you know he's got to be happy. This might be one of the last few minutes that you're going to be able to channel that ability very easily in this game. That is difficult. He's forced to run away. Netroid Genetics chasing him down. There's the Dark Portal for a silence. He had to run through the Tier 1 for the disengage, but now Genetics has peeled off. Over on the right-hand side, Johnny's able to get a kill, but we're going to keep chasing this one down. Nothing
Just keep
is
farming.
happening over there. Zeros is fine, and he's got his
He's going to get another wave?
speed. He's going to have a little bit of healing. Netroid chases. And that's going to keep him in
The
this.
beads?
Beads have to be used. He has nothing to work with. Emilito and Big Man teams are fighting in mid. There's so much going on with Zero.
He's surely
has
dead.
Run around the world so far. And this man is making Mercury look bad with how far he's going. Finally, there's a pin. Finally,
Okay.
someone's able to get the kill. But not before Zeros runs over Hell and Half of Georgia.
Yeah, that was that fight started at the Tier 1 on the Valhalla Valkyries duo lane, and it ended at the Pyromancer. The Camelot Kings try and pull
he
it
went
out.
a long way.
Yeah, he took the scenic route. Valhalla Valkyries, though, are able to put up a defense around the Pyromancer and stop the onslaught of the Camelot Kings. I was surprised to see the beads from Zeros. I'm pretty sure he doesn't think he's surviving that one. Maybe he does, since he does dedicate that relic. But, yeah, man, 2 minutes without beads, ultimate down, Kronos in some trouble.
Let's take a look at the kill Johnny was able to pick up while Zeros was listening to the Benny Hill theme and running around the world. Good Scarab's Blessing here from Raffer.
Oh, he's just going.
And yeah, he just Johnny things, man. Look, he didn't even get the proc. He was sitting at 200 health the whole time. Feels good. This jungle, 2-0-1 right now, has just been nuts for the Valkyries. I mean, Johnny, if he's able to find his way into these fights, is going to be a huge deal.
He is, and he's gone for a full damage build, whereas Captain Twig has picked up a little bit more utility. That's a Witchblade selection in the second slot for the Erlang Shen, trying to deal with some of the auto attacks of the Valhalla Valkyries, passive removing some of that attack speed, so both Emilito and Zeros going to struggle more so in these late game team fights as long as Captain Twig is nearby. But it seems like they're not concerned with that and instead have concerned themselves with the neutral objective, trying to match what the Camelot Kings are doing on the opposite side of the map. It's a one-for-one trade, but the Kings get the more valuable of the two at this point. I think the Valhalla Valkyries strategy is clear from this point. It's farm and then continue to farm.
All right, now for Emilito, it's try to stay alive. Not going to work out too well. Does manage to get the ult and pulls out a Twig out of nowhere. I thought he was gone. I thought Emilito made it out of there. And Twig just makes sure to cement that idea. 0-1 and 0. Haven't seen a lot of this Jingwei. Maybe not the look Emilito wanted to return to after what we got to see out of the Izanami in game number 2.
Yeah, I've loved what I've seen from Netroid so far. It's just, hey, I'm going to throw all my auto attacks into this minion wave, and if you're still around, I'm going to throw them at you afterward. It is W key mentality. Netroid not concerning himself with who's in front of him or how many people are there. He is loving taking every single fight that comes into his lane, and it's net them a Tier 1 tower strip away. So the Valhalla Valkyrie is going to have to work a little bit harder if they want to show up around Gold Furies in the future. It's inverse almost of what we see on the map from the Camelot Kings, who have already taken that solo lane tower. But I think the most important thing, and that is the thing that everyone in the chat and everyone at home should be keeping their eyes on, if you're a Valhalla Valkyries fan, or even if you're a Camelot Kings fan, you want to see how well you're doing, is Zeros' level. Once he ticks over to level 20, the Valhalla Valkyries are ready to fight. Until then, I'm not sure that they would love to take any engagement, but let's just break it down. He's level 13. Let's take a pick at Big Man Tings, who put up, what was it, like 52,000 damage in the last game on this pick?
Nuts.
Yeah, he's level 16, 3 levels up, 2-0. No assist. Everything he does goes his way. The Camelot Kings mid laner, huge advantage.
Has a lot going for him. All the relics in mid lane are still available. So even something going for them there. We have a rotation coming through. Johnny, Zeros in the jungle. Twig a little bit closer to the lane, though, and it's a 2v2. Now made 3v2. Emilito makes it up into the sky, but he goes right back in. Lands next to Twig. Fear no evil helps separate the fight, but it's still Emilito who ends up going down first. Twig is low, Genetics is low, but it's the turnaround. It's Big Man Tings. You had to highlight him once. We had to highlight him twice. He's chasing him down, and he's finding the damage necessary. Johnny looks like he's going to be able to leap on out of this one, but Trapper has no safety left for himself. Gets his team out of there, but it costs him his life.
So Big Man Tings is now 4-0 and level 17. Still a 3-level lead over Zeros, who does not make that rotation whatsoever. Instead tries to take out that Tier 1 tower in mid, but at what cost? Probably the Tier 2 tower in left map state. Absolutely favoring the Camelot Kings at this point, as is the gold, as is the experience. I agree, though, with Zeros' decision. He just does not match the pressure that Tiamat brings. Not yet, at least.
Well, Variety taken up into the sky. Ducky, Johnny, they've been the two to keep your eyes on for the Valkyries. There's going to be Sentinel Zeus, gives him the shield. Looks like it's going to give him the disengaged Twigs just around the corner. Relatively low health, but his ult's about to come back off cooldown, and that pin perfect for peel and setup. Zeros is low, Big Man Tings is here. That means anything can change in the blink of the eye with the damage that he's able to output. It's Twig chasing down Johnny right now, but it's Ducky in the fray of 4 right now. All of the Kings decide to jump in and get a piece of the solo laner and put him down.
Hey, Ducky was alive for a little while, but he was alone the entire time. Gotta think that there was a miscommunication from the Valhalla Valkyries. Not sure why Ducky would decide to dig in his heels and fight there. The Camelot Kings very happy to take what was essentially a 5 versus 1 engagement just next to the rest of the Valhalla Valkyries. So now, both neutral objectives very close to respawning. They are synced up timers, and I believe we're going to see exactly what we saw last time around. If it's a 5-man grouping from the Camelot Kings and the Gold Fury, you better believe all 5 members of the Valkyries are going to be on the Pyro.
Metroid caught out a little bit, but it seems like Imelito's the one taking the trade worse than where Fear No Evil finds nothing helpful. And Johnny, unfortunately, is going to have to watch as everyone runs away. Even worse, you have to look at those beads cooldowns. A lot of them are going to come back the next time he has his ult.
Yeah, that was a huge opportunity for Johnny with all 5 beads down on the Camelot Kings to find something on the map, and unfortunately finds legitimately nothing with the ultimate this time around. But there still will be opportunities. Variety's beads won't be back up just yet, neither will Big Man Ting, so Johnny gets at least one more shot to find a massive ultimate, but not before he loses his tier 1 tower.
5,000 gold sitting here for the Kings. They're getting aggressive. Raffer, Scarab's blessing on himself.
He's dead.
And he's rezzed right there, but there's still 5 members of the Kings, and Variety bullies him with the shield, knocks him back, and holds him in place. Johnny just trying to get his speed buff. Immel, Ducky just trying to stay alive. Zeros, other side of the planet, taking a tier 2 tower right now, but losing one in trade. He's not even able to pick up the one he was aggressing onto. So it is a 1 for none trade, plus a tower, and even more gold lining the King's pockets.
It is, and Zeros is very happy to just keep doing what he's been doing. He will take out this tier 2 tower. Nobody from the Kings gonna get there in time, despite a back from Captain Twig. So might be able to stop a Phoenix from going down, but that's about it.
Well, Ducky's gonna try to survive as long as he can. Once again, he's going down a lot faster than he expected. There's gonna be the Sentinel of Zeus. The slow is good, and that's gonna be a kill. Netroid, credit for that one. Damage from everybody. Make sure that the solo
Does
lane
he want the 1v1 on left?
2 and 3 Varieties trying to do whatever he can. Yeah, well, it looks like Zeros might have fought a little bit there for Twig. He got the tower, he backs up. Still has his ult and is now about to have his relic, so maybe Zeros could have stuck around a little bit longer. This is where things get interesting, Miff. You had said when he hits level 20, he's 18 now. He's only 1 down from where BMT is. Granted, it's a 5-0-2 Tiamat versus a 0-2-0 Kronos, but it is at least on the right direction for what they need.
Yeah, Zero's finding farm wherever he can on the map, and he absolutely needs to. I mean, behind essentially an entire item on Big Man Tings right now. Golden Hand sitting at 3,000, should be able to close up that gap slightly, but may have come a too little too late. Camelot Kings grouped on the fire.
And able to get aggressive, and Melito's already taken 1/3 of his health. He's going to have to force his ult away just to stay alive. Raffer is running down the lane towards the order side.
I think he's dead.
And he is going to end up going down here. Scarab's Blessing gives him some move speed to disengage, but it's going to unfortunately time out before he can stay alive. Minions help out Variety a little bit there, and they get rid of the support for the Valkyries. Now it's just going to be the chase down. BMT isolated. No one's going to be able to find him. The Fire Giant started up one more time by the Kings.
Johnny's hovering nearby and has the ultimate available. That's great steal potential, at least fight to put a coin toss in favor of the Valhalla Valkyries. Variety doing a great job, though, of just hanging around and saying, hey, I mean, if you want in, I'm going to at least make it hard for you. Zeros, he's reprised his role as the split pusher and forces 2 backs.
3 backs.
3 backs, okay, good stuff,
Hey,
Zeros.
it was a 3v5, now it's a 3v2 over on the Fire Giant. Maybe an opening for something to happen. Doesn't seem like the Valkyries feel confident in their capabilities. Zeros is going to continue this farm game. I was actually thinking about it when he was taking that tower. He was hitting for 62 each. I don't think he had his 2 procced. And they were slow autos. That's the only thing I could say. It was painfully slow. He started up a ring to try and get things on track.
He has. Zero's in some trouble now, is forced to use the beads. Still has rewind available, so not a whole lot of pressure here for him. The Camelot Kings, in being forced to back and return to the left side of the map, at least pick up something for their troubles. Primal Fury goes their way yet again, as well as the beads of Zero, so now he has to play a little bit safer around his split push style. Worth noting that Zero's was like at the bottom of the XP per minute charts for a long time. I'm pretty sure by now he's probably like second highest, if not highest. He's just been farming. He has just been farming for the last 5 or so minutes wherever he can, and generally wherever he can is in the duo lane. Sure, it's the furthest place from the only POI on the map, Fire Giant, but He's level 20 now. He's gotten there. He's going to finish this ring on next back. His split push just got a lot stronger. This Chronos is nearly online.
I mean, it's done kind of what you had highlighted. I'll admit, surprisingly so. I didn't expect to see him potentially even hit level 20 with the pace of the game that had met us up to this point. He's been able to do so. Still 5,000 gold favoring the other side. So he's got a long way to catch up in order to get there where PMT is. Fire Giant's going to start. And he is left side of the map. He's going for a Phoenix, so it's a 5v4 on the Fire Giant. Fear no evil available. Imolito getting jumped on and dunked on. He's going to be able to ult and get himself out of there. Raffer's still alive. Fire Giant was leashed. Phoenix is getting taken. Fear no evil gets dropped. Johnny not able to find much on the back end. Ducky is going to go down. A couple of crits. And Twig is the one who finds the last hit. Fire Giant started back up. What was a 4v5, now a 3v5. But he's in the Titan room. He's not going to continue the aggression. He falls back, but that might have been what they needed to get some backs off. His team's losing. They lose the Fire Giant despite getting the Phoenix.
Johnny maintains his life, as does Emilito. Not sure how long Johnny will have done that, though, as he is deep on the enemy side of the map, as is Emilito, surrounded by 3. Silence is good, and Twig, well, he's zoom.
Yeah, he's got it. Autos, though, and
yeah,
that's
they
what
hit hard.
matters. Oh, man, the damage numbers coming out from Netroid and Twig make that one look easy. They're going to go for the tier 2 and right. I have a question to pose for you.
Please.
You're Zeros in that position. Your team's losing their fight. You've got a full minion wave and you're in the Titan room. Do you stick around or do you back like he does?
I think I back just because he hadn't finished that ring just yet. And let's see a good look at his damage here. Twig, well, you can't stand in front of him.
See if they can make this work. Good Fear
ults.
No Evil onto 3. Genetics is low. Twig has no mana to work with. The Valkyries managed to push away the onslaught on their right side Phoenix. Just to keep it alive. 15 seconds for Imolito to come back. You've got just around that timer, maybe a little more than that, for the Pyromancer to come through. Still 5 members with Fire Giants on the side of the Kings to work against.
So now we get to evaluate the map state. If the plan is to send whoever your lowest farm is on the Valhalla Valkyries over to the left-hand side to get some free farm, no longer an option. Fire mini waves have already pushed him out. You can't just get free waves. And I think Ducky would have very much liked to have gotten some free waves, sitting at level 16 right now, is this King Arthur. Fortunately, though, before Zeros was done with the Phoenix, he finished up his leveling. Now level 20 on this Chronos Telkine's ring picked up, both relics available. We have not had a look at Chronos in these team fights, and if you want that exemplified anywhere, take a peek at the damage charts, bottom left-hand corner of your screen. He is 200 above his support.
We'll see what he can do here. Rewind's going to be good. Takes him just inside the Solo Lady. He's going to be able to disengage and run away from Twig. Didn't use any of his relics, just the ultimate, which Scarab's Blessing counts as a faster rewind if he's able to get it procced. So they'll fall back here, trying to push up. Still tier 1 available in that right-hand solo lane. So the Valkyries just trying to find whatever farm they can, where they can.
Is he just going to go split push the other side lane now?
We have not seen a 5v5 this game.
Zeros, your late game Chronos. Now's the time to help your team. It's a stack up from the Camelot Kings. 2 in mid, 3 on left, and Zeros headed back to base. Seems like he is willing to participate.
He's going to at least join the fray this time around. Ducky, 16 to Variety's 19. Variety causing a lot of disruption. Pluck just wide for Genetics. He's not going to be able to get any big
That's good
upset
damage.
right here. Minion wave coming in for the Kings. They're going to be able to get aggressive. Imolito takes a third of his HP. Stays alive just fine for now. Phoenix, roughly untouched. The Kings continue to group up as 5.
Johnny still has Blink and Ultimate, so he's not going to make it easy for the Kings, who are stacked up heavily.
You have to look at his positioning. He's coming around the back, but it's going to be aggression. Imolito gets saved. Scarab's Blessing on point.
There's the ult.
Comes through. There's the ult. Big Man Tings is the target, but it's not going to be enough to find the kill. Half health for a lot of the Kings, but the healing is there for Genetics. Variety leading the way, and Variety finding a kill. Gets out alive as well. Raffer and Ducky off the board, and the Valkyries are missing their front line.
The Camelot Kings are low, though. Netroid too far forward, is able to escape. Emilito off the mark, as is Johnny. Sacred Monkey, just not close enough.
He's trying to close the gap. Variety goes back in. Zeros, Imolito, Johnny, the 3 there standing. Johnny backing over there in the mid lane to try and get some of that healing necessary. Get the mana back. The healing is good for the Kings. The Fire Giant buff and Genetics bolstering their defense is allowing them to move forward. They're going to get aggressive. Zeros, Immel incredibly low, and where are you going to land, Immel? Right in front of the waiting arms of Variety. Forces the Aegis from both of them. Johnny gets taken down by the Phoenix. The Kings walk into the Titan room. They're going to go ahead and pull back just a little bit. 7 seconds on Ducky and Raffer. they're looking for the mid Phoenix.
Zeros and Emilito still healthy. Good damage output. Variety falls down, and Emilito still healthy. 1v1 up against Big Man Tings. Should be able to reset here.
You need the damage now. Twig has nothing to work with. Ducky, Raffer, rejoin the battle, and you've got your CC. Zeros, you have to go big, and you have to make him go home for the Kings, but he's taking too much in retaliation. Netroid, it's too hot to handle. Emilito's back in this. Emilito gets pulled in. Emilito gets taken down. And the Valkyries have been marching in one by one and falling just the same way.
They have been. I have not loved the team fight so far from the Valhalla Valkyries. I think that all starts with Johnny taking the scenic route throughout the jungle. Had he just hovered where he was earlier, between the two Phoenixes, near his tower, or near his door rather, in the base, Blink was available, as was Fear No Evil. We saw a 4-stack, essentially like 10 units together, were the Camelot Kings, and it just wasn't enough. Johnny, a little too slow to get there. Does force out a good deal of beads. You can see the synced beads timers from the Camelot Kings, all coming up in about 50 seconds. The only one who maintains his is Variety. Variety also one of the only ones to have fallen in that engagement. So now the Valhalla Valkyries, they're 5 strong. They're all 5 stacked up. Zeros is full build. Demonic Grip rounds it out. Just waiting on that starter item to get finished up. If I had to guess, probably alternate timeline, because he wants Revive, Rewind, Scarab's Blessing. It's just super annoying. But we have not seen a true 5-on-5 engagement, have we? That was the closest that we've come to one. But even then, it felt like it was a 4 versus 5 or a 3 versus 5 at every point.
Very sporadic so far from the Valkyries. Spread out in a lot of these engagements. This Chronos, someone that I want to get a much closer look at. Emilito respawns. Fire Giant is back 27 minutes into the game. Kings lead the kills 18-5. And they lead in gold 12,000. And what feels like still rising in their favor. 2 Phoenixes down for the Valkyries. So a lot to fight back against, and a grouping that hinges this game. Potentially the set, a 2-1 lead. Very important for either of these to be able to pick up.
Yeah, jumping yourself to set point puts so much pressure on the other side. Speaking of pressure, Raffer feels it drop down to 30%.
What a good amount of damage. Ducky has nothing to work with. His health bar is just dwindling. Emilito gets deleted by Netroid. And there's the Scarab's Blessing. It saves Ducky. But you had to watch your carry go down. Fear No Evil is huge. It finds 2.
Great pull!
But he gets pulled right back into the fray. Ducky's been killed off by Big Man. And now Johnny's in a 1v3 trying to do anything and everything he can. Forced to run away. Zeros in the one-on-one up against Twig. Goes for the rewind. He's going to lose the positioning. Twig makes it out of there. Johnny now in a 1v1 versus Variety. He's got some jungle camps to keep him alive and sustained. I don't know if this is going to be enough. He's in the fight and in the fray. Finds the damage. One more hit is all he needs. Gets rid of Variety. But his team loses the Fire Giant. Zeros joins him. And now he gets pinned. This is a dangerous fight for the Valkyries to take, but they're going to do it as a 3-man, make it a 2-man. Zeros just deleted off the map.
Yeah, Variety got Bumbas hammered, then Zeros got hit by a late-game crit hunter, Netroid, with Wind Demon and Deathbringer. Only needs to land 3 to put down Zeros, and that's exactly how it goes down this time around. The Valhalla Valkyries lose out on the Fire Giant, they lose out on the engagement, but they are at least able to take that buff off of 1. Variety falling down.
Now, Big Man Tings,
how do you get there?
Why he is that far forward, what he's doing up there, but finally they shut down Big Man Tings. 7-1-6, first death of the game, level 20, and all of the damage in the world. And they have a few minutes to finally not have to worry about this Tiamat just for a little bit.
What? Why? What? Okay, yeah, that's fine. 7-1-6 for Big Man Tings. I'm not going to harp on it too much. It still is a great KDA for him. But that may have been just enough for the Valhalla Valkyries to extend this game yet again. Now, Big Man Tings, no Fire Giant, dead for 20. Variety just now respawning, but he doesn't get the Fire Giant buff on respawn. So it's only 3 members of the Camelot Kings in a power position to utilize this buff. And it's only about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on it. Once we see Big Man Tings respawn, closer to 2 minutes, it takes roughly 20 seconds to walk from your base to the other base. A lot of this Fire Giant power play has been lost to some questionable micro plays on the map.
And good news for the Valkyries. Left side Phoenix, hey, guess what? It's respawned. They've got 1 more fire wave to deal with. Mid, they've got 2 more to deal with, but it just came back to life. 2 Fire Giants down on the Kings. They still have 3 times the kills that the Valkyries have as of right now, and 15,000 more gold. Top damage in the game goes over to the Izanami. 6-0-11 for Netroid. He's putting up almost 40,000 damage here. And you'd think, oh, well, Tiamat can't be too far behind. You're pretty much right. 32,000, 7-1-6. Both of them up until very recently were undying. Tings changing that a little bit. We'll see if they're able to continue their onslaught here as they go up against weakened Phoenixes.
Yeah, the mid Phoenix has taken a heavy bit of damage already. It's a 3-on-2 stack, 3 in left, 2 in mid, and Zero's the only one to put up a defense, cannot do it on his own. Mid Phoenix taken away. Simplifies the game. 5 stack now for the Valhalla Valkyries around this left-hand side.
Potentially the first time we get to see a 5-on-5 for them. Variety gets pulled in, and then Raffer has to Scarab's Blessing himself. The health bar is dwindling fast. He's already gone for the second time. Fear No Evil deep in the backline finds 4. Johnny trying to do everything he can, but he gets crit, and Netroid is the one who's driving this one home. The damage is just too much to deal with. Zeros and Melito versus the world. Phoenixes are weakened. They can only do so much here. The Kings are going to look for the last 2 kills. And they're going to go ahead and run into the Titan room with the Deicide and take a 2-1 lead this set.
Captain Twig won't let Zeros maintain his KDA, or maybe will be forced to. He's got to race against his team, but the Titan will fall nonetheless.
Oh, and he didn't get it. Zeros goes grayscale, but doesn't get the kill.
Hold that, Twig.
Yeah, 2-1 lead for the Kings here. They control that one for a majority of it. 3 times the amount of kills, twice the amount of wins now in the set, and admittedly just 1 game away from being able to find their win.
Yeah, okay, so Aggro was right. Not super impressed from the play that we saw from Kronos so far. One of the most impactful plays he's made was split pushing. It was all split push.
He
Might
was
as well have been Apollo.
not in the fight.
No, not at all. He was sitting at like 4,000 or so damage for the majority of this game, I believe at the 20-minute mark. Does eventually end the game at about 17,000, but didn't win him any team fights, did it?
No. It's the easy answer, no. The Kings, the desk liked their draft. I think we liked their play, and they find themselves a win. We'll see if the Valkyries can tie this up, or if the Kings put this one to bed right after this.
That's right, January 6th through 9 is the hi-rez showcase. That is literally 2 months away. Well, not literally. 2 months plus 1 day. Literally 2 months plus 1 day away from now. That is wild. That has been a long year, an exciting year, but there is a whole lot more fun to be had before Season 8 is officially done. January 6th through 9th is the hi-rez showcase, and a packed week of action. Those little orangey blocks there, we're going to get competitive SMITE quarterfinals, semifinals, and grand finals over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But everything hi-rez happening that week. A little something for everyone to look forward to, Aggro.
Can't wait. Best time of year, baby. SMITE World Championship. It's so much fun. I mean, clearly we're going to have a great Worlds. I mean, you can just tell by the quality of the games we're having now.
And another quality game for the Camelot Kings in game number 3 here. Feels like a return to the norm as far as expectations go in this set. All credit to the Valkyries for what they did in game 2. It was continuing to do that through this set, and still a chance to do so. You just got to win back-to-back games now. But Big Man Ting's got to run back this team at 10th pick overall. Looked really, really good once again. Netroid also had a fantastic game. The carries for the Kings really put on a show.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that Big Man Tings gets this 10th. That's criminal. I just think the Valkyries really got a little caught up. I mean, look, Johnny went absolutely nuts game 2. The man was 16-2-14. That is one of the best scored lines I have ever seen in an SPL game, and I've been doing this for a long time. But I think that it got a little lost as to how the Valkyries and how Johnny got to that point.
How we got there.
Which was duo lane pressure and getting Raffer on proactive picks. This Kepri, nothing. Didn't do a whole lot for me. I mean, I already went over the Chronos. That didn't do a whole lot. I think this Soul Ban really hurt the Valkyries. And it's a lot like what we were talking about with the Scarabs, where they, when you're a team that's floundering, you kind of work your way into finding one comp that works really well for you. And then that comp works really well for you. And then teams realize what the linchpins are, they take it away, and it's on you to readjust. And I think that the Valkyries, Soul mid works for them. That is the right pick for Zeros. After Soul is off the table, what does Zeros go to? And top 2 in Chronos is not the direction.
Right, or Thoth or Chang'e has been the answer a few times there for the Valkyries as well. That is a gross amount of damage from Netroid. Did 46,000. Big Man Tings did 36,000. I think it was a combined like 16-1 and 22 or 32 or something like that for both the carries. You kill the carries combined once, you lose. You're going to be hard-pressed to win the game. And so now it's bounce-back time, but it does feel like aggro, and this is something the Kings have preached on, Captain Twig has preached on, the importance of mid-set adjustments in these best-of-5 sets. And I'm glad you give a shout-out to the Soul Ban there, because I think that's been a good mid-set adjustment from the Camelot Kings, sticking with some stuff that has worked for them there as well. I think Netroid has been pretty flexible as far as picks and bans go here in this set.
Yeah.
And a really, really good shot at winning their first best-of-5 of the year for the Camelot Kings.
Yeah, just one more to go. And if I'm the Kings, same game plan roughly. But it is worth noting that this is going to be the first game that the Valks are in first pick. So Valkyries have the choice coming off the loss. I believe they chose to go second pick after the game 1 loss.
Right.
Get the win, and now are switching it up. So that's interesting to me that they changed mid-set. So we'll see what adjustments they want to make. Maybe they feel like the Kings can't ban Soul if they're second pick. Mm-hmm. That would be the pick that I'm looking to try and force the Kings to take away and maybe open up something really good for us.
Yep, it has been mid plus carry or mid plus support in all 3 games so far for the Valhalla Valkyries with their first 2 picks. It's going to have to be a little bit different here. Could still prioritize that mid lane, but cannot immediately follow up with the support on your side. Loki and Olarun will remain the same throughout here. And so you might expect some shifting to be done since the Valkyries are now in that first pick slot. You've been really prioritizing the Odin and the ban column, things like that. And so that's something you could look for there as well. But I think you're right in your thinking for the Camelot Kings. Why not just run back something similar? And I think that this is smart. You're going to take away the soul for the Camelot Kings. But you said there might, or for the against the Valkyries, you said there might be a reason to feel like you can't ban that away in that second pick slot, but the Kings kind of brushing that by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, the Valkyries, what do they try and leave open here? Maybe you try and get Artio for Ducky. Like, that's the pick that you can kind of adjust and get. Yeah, you ban something like Sylvanas here. This makes a ton of sense. Now the Kings have to choose what they want to ban between, you know, Geb or Artio. You know,
Odin's been popular.
Odin, right. You're getting at least one of these. Now, if I'm the Kings, I kind of ban none of them.
Right.
Because I get 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3, absolutely.
And we can play multiple no matter which combination. So if I'm the Kings, I'd be like, you know, I could be like, let's just ban something else. Izanami makes a ton of sense. I think banning Izanami is really strong. Now the Valkyries have to choose which do we want to go for. I think overall, I think I'd go Artio or Odin in this spot. I mean, certainly the Geb did not perform very well on the other side. I think Odin first pick is fine. Now you force the Kings to go Artio in their top 2 in this position, though I don't think they're going to be too upset about that deal.
This is a pick where relative success for Ducky has been there. You know, the team has still struggled to win, but as far as picks looking good for Ducky in the solo lane, Odin has been a style of pick that we have seen some success for Ducky specifically on this Valhalla Valkyries team. So Geb has been a topic of conversation. Won't end up being the Geb. And I doubt, although, I was going to say I doubt we see it, but that's a solo lane pick for the Valkyries. You could, I suppose, still see a Geb if it's left open here. And so this is something the Valkyries have been doing. They've been prioritizing carry or mid plus support. And now the Kings are going to do so as well. They're going to grab themselves the Emoja and the Ram.
Yeah, I mean, Netrioid doesn't get to play the Izanami, so they pick Emoja Ram, probably thinking that they'll be able to get Artio on the return, but I like this adjustment from the Valkyries. Lock in Odin and Artio for yourself. I'd anticipate they're going to pick Zeros as God here because they have top 2 to his God every other game this set, so would anticipate that that's the direction that they will go, but they don't. They go Heimdall instead for Emilito. I think that this is a fine top 3 here for the Valks. I'm still very concerned about what Zeros is going to be playing in mid, but Odin can go support.
Yep.
I'd like to see Odin support Artio solo. I think that's the better lineup for how it's going to go. And surprisingly, it's Discordia top 3 instead of that Tiamat. And normally you'd think, oh, well, it's because you need a character that can get out of that Odin cage, but Tiamat can get out of Odin cage just as well as Discordia can. Yep. So little surprised in the direction the big man goes.
I'm sorry you have to come back to this camera shot immediately after the adorable cat all bundled up on Ducky's bed. There's just no following that. Discordia, though, has been an interesting pick out of the mid lane for big man Tings, and I think Dardes are the 2 that really come to the forefront of my mind when I think about this Discordia pick and how it's actually looked really good in both of their hands. And so I think I'm not at all concerned about the player-god synergy between Big Man Tings and Discordia here. That said, it has been Tiamat 4 out of the last 6 games for BMT. It's looked great, so a bit of a different shift here for the Camelot Kings out of the mid lane. But they've already got a little bit of control here. Strife, Yamoja obviously good at space control, and that's something the Valkyries are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I like what the Kings have so far. The Discordia does give that cripple that is good against Odin, Artio, and Heimdall. That might be the reason why they prioritize it over the Tiamat in this position. So the team fight is already pretty good from the Kings. They have their backline solidified. I'm interested to see what direction the Variety is going to go, though, because he's been on this Nike all set long. They've really prioritized this in the top 3. This time they don't take it there. It gets banned away right away. And now Variety's got to switch up his style a little bit. And you don't know for sure which direction they're going to be going on the other side. Because theoretically it could be Artio support,
right?
But it shouldn't be.
Yeah, shouldn't be, because Artio is just so dominant, feels like, out of the solo lane.
Yeah.
So we will see, but educated guesses lean Artio solo, Odin then over in support. Hunbat's going to be the pick here for the Camelot Kings. And the Serket ban does raise some eyebrows here, because that's something that Johnny has played a couple of times. But that does still leave open some priority picks here, aggro, down the stretch for the Valhalla Valkyries. Fenrir has been in and out of the pick ban column all throughout Season 8 up to this point, going to be back in the pick column here for the second game played in this group, in these group stages. And then Aphrodite has seen a lot more play in the group stages, and certainly an interesting way to round out the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think or Afro Fenrir, excuse me, is a really strong 2v2 in mid because you've got CC, you've got damage, you've got healing, and Fenrir carries enough damage that he doesn't need a whole lot of help in that department, so the Afro pick makes a lot of sense alongside it. My concern here for the Valkyries is really just this Yemoja wall, and how does Zeros end up getting out of these Rivers Rebukes and surviving? It's probably going to require a Phantom from someone here on the Valks. I think their initiation is a little bit difficult to execute on. You're really leaning on Johnny on this Fenrir. But overall, I think the Valks have got a much better draft than we saw from them in Game 3.
Yep.
So I do like the adjustments they've made.
Now, Ratatosker solo would be surprising if it weren't Variety playing this pick. In the set up against the Leviathans, the Kings only won 1 out of the 4 games that they played. And Variety was playing Ratatosker in that 1-game win over the Leviathans when these two teams met up last week. A 6-1-8 performance from Variety on this Ratatosker last time we saw it. Certainly some viability then for the solo lane and Ratatosker in Variety's hands.
Love this type of pickup against RDO because you don't want to be near the RDO in the laning phase. Like, what's the point? She's just going to CC me, stun me, you know, heal off me, out-clear me, and then out-trade me. That's not – I'm really interested in what I'm fighting. I want to be elsewhere on the map, and so Ratatosker is a god that unlocks these mid lane rotations a lot earlier. Level 5 onwards, you always have threat to get to mid faster than your opponent. Variety is clearly very comfortable on it. We were talking about Season 3 Worlds at the beginning of this set. Really dominated on this pick back then. Did so against Leviathans last week, like you mentioned. I think Rat Solo is something that's pretty undervalued right now and is really strong and can really put a lot of pressure on something like Aphrodite. So I think it's a genius pick here for the Kings.
Now, we've been pretty lucky, Aggro. We haven't had to talk that much about anti-heal up to this point here today.
True.
This is now a game where I think you have to start considering it. You get a Yemoja for the Kings, and on the other side, RDO plus Aphrodite. Maybe start with the Kings here. Do you think between Rom, Discordia, maybe even Hunbats and Rat, you have the ability to apply anti-heal pretty consistently?
100%. This is a really easy team to apply anti-heal with. I mean, it's an easy brawlers here for Captain Twig. Divine is fantastic on Discordia because the little bouncing balls from Unruly Magic oftentimes spread throughout a team fight, and those are going to apply the Divine Ruin for you. Ratatosker can go Contagion or Pestilence, and he's always going to be on those healers in the back line, so I think it's easy for the Kings. On the other side, for the Valks, Afro doesn't really want to build Divine. Fenrir doesn't really want to build brawlers, though he can. I think that the Valks have a little bit of a harder time, but it's also less important than on the other side. I'd expect to see at least one anti-heal item here from the Valkyries, maybe a brawlers, plus a Contagion or Pestilence from one of the frontliners.
Doesn't this draft from the Camelot King, it almost just feels kind of refocused, recentered.
It's very good.
You take a little stumble against the Valkyries in game number 2. You have a great look at maybe winning your first best-of-5 set of the year, all but solidifying your spot in the Phase 3 playoffs. The Valhalla Valkyries and the Camelot Kings maybe one final time battling it out in game number 4.
Valkyries can tie us up, push us to game number 5. That's a tall order up against the Kings based on what we had just seen, and if I'm looking at the way their team fights went, Variety on this Ratatosker is going to be able to disrupt them a lot faster this game. Also in an interesting spot in the mist there. I'm trying to figure out what he could have been going for outside of potentially trying to catch someone who was going too far forward for a ward. Nothing big coming out of this early game. Except there's a Ratatosker here.
Not yet. We're only 8 seconds in,
Well,
Gord. Give him some time.
From his positioning. That's what I mean. Because he was...
Fair enough.
Homie was looking for something.
He was. Maybe somebody stepping
what.
too far forward for the ward. As you said, maybe he's able to drop a ward himself. Seems like that was the strategy. He's trying to drop it there so he realizes when the junglers start to rotate their way towards mid. I like both of these drafts a lot. My only concern for the Valhalla Valkyries draft in the late game is who's utilizing the Ring of Spears. I know Ducky can like close gap pretty easily, but you don't have a standard mage to apply damage in that lockdown space. You don't have the best dive potential. I mean, sure, Johnny should be able to go in there pretty easily, but he's squishy up against this large CC core of the Camelot Kings. I think if the Valhalla Valkyries pull a lead, this is a draft that can run with it, but if they don't, they could get run over as well.
Yeah, Johnny is going to be the one to keep your eye on. Mostly linked with Zeros, I anticipate, for this game. And man, after watching game number 2, that feels like a winning combo. Hey, I'm going to give Johnny and Aphrodite just pocket, give him the heal, give him Undying Love, give him whatever he needs to make sure that he finds success. This Fenrir is a pick we've not seen too often lately. But like you said, can dive, can do a lot of damage. But early on, he's going to be relatively squishy. And admittedly, with the way Johnny builds, I mean, we're talking 4th, 5th item before he has any prots to really deal with a lot of the return.
Agreed. I am excited to see how Johnny does decide to build. Maybe it's like a Pridwin style Fenrir where you go for a bruiser, or maybe you're going full damage, just relying on the survivability that Aphrodite affords you. But Johnny is going to be the one that gets you your early lead. That's where it's got to come from the Valhalla Valkyries. Fenrir, Brutalize at level 3 is one of the highest damaging abilities that you could really hope for out of a jungler. Has a lot of good channeled. Strife doesn't really have the best way to peel off this Fenrir either. So keep your eyes on Johnny throughout the early. Taking a good deal of poke already, though. Going to be Zeros' job to resustain him.
It's a big task. Zeros was not involved in a lot of fights last game.
Not at all.
It was maybe the last few. And maybe ultimately, if you go and count them individually, it starts to skew more towards him being in more fights just because of the way the late game went. But spent a lot of time split pushing. This is going to have to be a very different look. From Kronos to Aphrodite, a wildly different style of play. Also has a lot of pressure here. We had kind of highlighted this. I mean, you're going to get some damage from Odin. Johnny should carry. But Emilito is going to have to step up to the plate as well here on this Heimdall to make sure that everything goes well for this draft for the Valkyries.
Yeah, Melito's been having a good set so far, so relying on him doesn't feel nearly too awful. But you're right to bring up just the distinct shift up from Zeros. Even between Soul to Kronos, there's a good bit of carryover in how you're trying to play in the team fight. Aphrodite is the largest departure from that auto attack style that we've seen from him so far. I would honestly love, just for the comedic value, to see Zeros go for some split push plays come late game, but I doubt we see it.
Well, right now it's going to be Variety. A good knock-up. Johnny, Zeros separated. That's going to be 1 kill onto the mid laner. If they could catch him fast enough. Could be a kill onto the jungler as well. Now he's going to make it to the waiting arms of Ducky. Safety just around the corner. That's going to be a 1-for-0 first blood picked up for the Kings. Raffer, Emil trying to turn it around to a little bit more. Netroid is low. 1 stray auto is all it would take. With the towers there, the sword's not enough. And Netroid skirts out of this one alive.
Well, the Valhalla Valkyries drafted a dual lane for pressure, and they've got it already. Good kill presence, good just pressure in the minion wave as well. So the Valkyries can push there. Variety surrounded.
Ducky has the ring, drops the ring, dies in the ring, and now Johnny's able to retaliate at least a little bit. So solo for solo. And Johnny getting on board probably feels good. Variety with 2 kills, though, has already taken a level lead.
He has, and expect to see what you've seen for Variety throughout the rest of the early to mid game. These rotations from Ratatasker are easy to perform. He's got beads in that first slot, so he doesn't really have additional mobility, but he doesn't need it because of Through the Cosmos. The global presence that this Ratatasker brings means that Zeros, in particular, probably going to be the recipient of a lot of pressure early on. And if I'm reading this right, Zeros ticks over to level 5. I don't believe he's used that ultimate just yet. He just didn't level it, I don't think. He just doesn't have Undying Love.
And sometimes, and you know, I've seen this at least like watching streams, so ranked game maybe not the most perfect, but yeah, but putting a 3rd point into your birds as opposed to getting that ult, because you're not fighting a whole ton, and I think that's where it starts to get your clear a little bit better. So maybe it's just going to be a farm game for Zeros here for a little bit. Definitely not looking for a fight over the next couple of minutes. Johnny's going to have the Ragnarok as well. Opens up a lot more conversations for the Valkyries, but also maybe closes off some for a little bit. Now he's level 6, now he's got the ult. Back to an equal point.
Yeah, nice even playing field here for Zeros, and I wanna see the 3v3 from the Valhalla Valkyries. You've got to utilize this Aphrodite throughout the early game. Undying Love means that Johnny can utilize Ragnarok essentially freely in these team fights. You need to burn the beads of Big Man Tings first if you want to find that priority target. Kiss can do it. It is decent threat, but the damage output of Zeros on his own not going to be nearly enough. And that's another concern you should have for the Valhalla Valkyries going forward. Who is going to be consistently burning these beads? Maybe Raffer in these team fights. If you're lucky, Ducky single target with the Gungnir's Might could burn off some beads as well. Emilito can do it with the ultimate. But all the beads burning capacity on the side of the Valkyries is generally single target, which means Johnny's going to have to work much, much harder to find Ragnarok ultimates, especially considering we're 6 minutes in and Big Man Ting still hasn't used his.
We're on the other side. Twig back to a Hunbats. If you've been watching Smite for a long time, you remember back when Twig jungled preseason 7. He only was mid for a year there. This Hunbats fits him like a glove, and it's a lot easier to get pairs of beads burned from a Fear No Evil than from the Ragnarok on the other side. Hadn't had a lot of fighting. I anticipated, especially with the healing from Raffer and this Aphrodite, like you said, kind of a get-out-of-jail-free card. You could dive the tower and still potentially walk away with your life if you're Johnny. They're not going for a lot of early-game aggression. And this Discordia has already got to a small lead. You're still feeling it over there a little bit in the solo lane. Feels like the Kings are driving at least a little bit more of the pace of the game.
The experience largely even, about 1,000 separate these two squads. Gold maybe a little bit more important at this point, 1,200 in favor of the Camelot Kings. Greater Scorpion only going to push that even further in their favor. Enhance some buffs, spawn up the Gold Fury sooner rather than later. But it's Raffer in first, and he's found Genetics.
Yeah, he went for a blink. They have the lockdown on Genetics, but it's not enough to be able to find a kill. Good two-man stun from Raffer. Kings gets the dash. Genetics falls back. Netroid is in no trouble the entire time. Twig is joining the fray. Johnny's here as well with Zeros. They're going to go for it. There's going to be the ult out of Netroid. Saves him the beads. The snipes are just maintaining the sky. Walls, the River's Rebuke, thrown up. Genetics is trying to create some space. There's going to be the Fear No Evil, but it's not going to be enough to lock him down. Emilito almost gets out of there. Twig still manages to get the takedown. Johnny locked up between three, goes down. Raffer trying to run away, and Twig is just going to continue the chase. Unfortunately, it's a Guardian. They're not going to be able to find that, but the kills now read 4-1 in favor of the Kings.
Johnny and Emilito trade out their lives for 0 value on the left-hand side, so Camelot Kings extend their gold lead yet again, now closer to about 2,500 in their favor, maybe a little bit more. This is a quick pace for the Camelot Kings, and I think their scaling come late game likely better as well, just because of how much more cohesive their team fight is. The Valhalla Valkyries generally like to play a style where they wait for those late game team fights and they utilize a superior draft. I don't think that's what they've got here. I think despite having a fair deal of sustain, good engage thanks to Odin, they need to start digging in their heels sooner rather than later. This gold deficit is already a concerning amount at about 2,500.
Definitely a lot to try and deal with. 8 minutes into the game, the Kings, again, trying to put this to bed with a good win right here. Their plus-minus might not look as happy as they would like it, but their win-loss will, and that's exactly what they're trying for. Remember, top 3 move on to the Phase 2 playoffs, or Phase 3 playoffs even. Phase 2 playoffs already happened. Bottom 4, number 4 in each group, still gets to go to the SWC placement round, where they'll get potentially randomized into a group with the 3rd through 8th seeds SPL. A lot that could go on over there. Plus the SEC teams join the fray. That's going to be the engage from Twig. He's going to be able to find the separation. Fear No Evil was dropped, and he is going to lose his life. Emilito, credit for the kill, but Johnny with the pickup opens up the opportunity. Raffer, good dash, gets him out of there. The follow-up from Genetics, Variety, and Netroid seems to be a little too good, though, and it's jungle for support.
Twig for Raph trade, and I'm sure that's one the Valkyries are happy to take this time around. Captain Twig has a little bit of a level lead, so he can play with his life more so. It's still Johnny at level 8 just now, ticking over towards level 9. And taking a peek at the builds from both teams here. The Camelot Kings, seems like they realize they like their late game as well. A slow start from Netroid going towards that Devourer's Gauntlets in the first slot, whereas Emilito picks up the Icavale. Means that Valhalla Valkyries want to root their fight in the long lane. They want to play around this Heimdall, who's gone for one of the fastest power spikes you can ask for from a Hunter. But so far, have not been able to hit the ground running. Yeah, thank you for the hover. 30% attack speed, 35 power, strips power from your opposition, whereas Netroid just gets a little bit of lifesteal, a little bit of power from his build. Once he goes towards potentially an Executioner a little bit later on, kin size as well could really make it hard for Ducky to perform. It seems like the Camelot Kings not only have the lead in the early, they've got the scaling in the late, and they've got time to work with.
There were a lot of games, though, in phase, what was it, phase 2? Netroid on this ROM, like, I mean, you're highlighting it, time to work with. Like, he played this ROM over and over again, and even when he fell out of meta, he kept locking him in and still looked good playing him. I think if you're Emilito here, like, you not only need to be willing to fight early on, you need to right now try to slow him down, and at least enough to keep things going for you.
Emilito likely going towards Aussie in his second slot, but has to match up against the lifesteal of both Devourer's Gauntlets and Aussie from Netroid, so that 1v1 potential may be gone. If Emilito starts a fight and doesn't actually kill Netroid, he's just going to full heal.
This is going to be a good Fear No Evil. Johnny picks up Twig, though. Tries to bring him back to the waiting arms of the rest of the Valkyries. Not going to happen there. The apple separates and divides. Gets a little bit of damage onto Zeros. Johnny can't go in. Nobody dies. The Valkyries use a lot. The Kings use a little bit more.
They do, and the Valhalla Valkyries force the rotation out from Ducky as well, so both Soulmares joining the engagement around the center of the map, but only one of them still has their ultimate. Ring of Spears still available, maybe potential to try and continue that fight. But even if he does cage out, let's say Variety when his ult's down. Sure, he can't get out of the cage. Where's the damage coming from? Probably not Aphrodite. Definitely not Odin on his own. I think this Ratatasker essentially has free play on field in that I'm not sure anybody's killing him.
Been able to get out of everything so far.
Just fighting him in the cage.
Just fine. Yeah, he's having no problem. In fact, Variety's going in. He's going for the stun. And he's looking for the fight versus Ducky. Ducky stays alive at, what is that, like 1/6 HP? He's fine for now, but not a lot going his way. The Odin, this was a big, look, the Valkyries locked this in a lot of their successful games earlier this phase. It's 0-1-1. It hasn't necessarily been eye-opening yet, but I still have high hopes for Ducky.
Breastplate of Valor pickup. You've already got Blink for Ducky. Moves into the Thorns as well. So Blink, Ring of Spears, going to be the name of the game for this Odin going forward. He's got a good deal of CDR to make sure that he's able to do it consistently
if you
throughout
fuse
this
that
game.
together, is it the Bling of Spears? That doesn't sound good. Never mind. Forget I said it.
I will. I've already forgotten. So yeah, gold lead looking pretty good for the Camelot Kings, which is quickly expanded. This is what the Kings do. They turn small leads into large ones off of macro play on the map. Neutral farm going their way. And with a lead as it is, and with early power spikes, Big Man Ting's 2 levels up, gotta think the Camelot Kings are pretty close to a position where they can just do exactly what you're seeing on the map. Pull the Gold Fury and force the Valhalla Valkyries to try and make a rotation in and take a fight.
Yeah, big rotations over here. Variety way. The positioning is fast. That Variety gets a leap out of Johnny and isolates him. Now Emilito's stuck in the River's Rebuke, and there's going to be enough for the disengage thanks to the Bifrost. Fear No Evil isolates Raffer. He's half health, and Variety and Twig doing what and everything they can to try and lock him down. Up to the skies, onto the tree goes Variety, and bouncing down onto Emilito, not looking for blood, but maybe for a zone for the disengage. Twig low, Ting's half health. Both go ahead and back away, and the Kings forfeit their grouping around the Gold Fear.
And the Medic Zero should be able to resustain everybody on the side of the Valhalla Valkyries. There's similar sustain coming from genetics, but not nearly as much as quickly. It is a more AoE focus, though, so as long as it's just potent from the Valkyries, sustain war goes to the Kings.
Emilito kind of thrown to the wolves, has to sustain himself.
Good ult.
There's a great pickup from Johnny, and he's chasing him down. Aegis good from Tings, but not enough to keep him alive. They trade 1 for 1. Undying Love still available, but Zero's not able to close the gap and connect to Johnny to keep him alive. Ultimately, Johnny gets a good kill. He burns both relics.
Great trade for Johnny to go for. Big Man Ting's one of the most valuable targets on the map right now, and this is going to give Zeros a little bit of an opportunity to close up that level gap. You want to farm up as much as you can in the next 20 seconds while Big Man Tings thinks about the mistakes that he's made in his positioning. And he didn't make many because he was in the back of his own Tier 1 tower. Johnny just dove deeper.
He's just that hungry. Going as deep as he can this early on. Trying to open it up. 14 minutes in. Every tower save for the Tier 1 and right standing for the Valkyries. So they lost that one early on. Ducky going to lose a little bit of pressure from it. Variety's rotations on this Ratatosker are kind of obnoxious. If you are a Valkyries fan or player, having to deal with what he is providing, that semi-global presence, just seems to be a little frustrating.
3-1-1 from Variety. 4 out of the 6 kills participated by the Soul Laner. You don't see that very often, especially at this point of the game. But that global presence allows you to do it. You can just go wherever you want on the map. Ducky essentially just playing catch-up the entire time, not only in farm, because he's 2 levels down, but also in just positioning. This Ratatasker gets to dictate the pace of the Soul Lane. And even though I would say Variety's been in lane less often than Ducky has, somehow takes out that Tier 1 tower before Ducky's able to return it on the other end. Variety, well, it's a bit of a gap here in the Soul Lane. The late-game teamfight presence, though, should slightly go in favor of Ducky. I mean, Ring of Spears is just such a powerful tool for controlling space that maybe Variety has to think harder about where he dunks.
River's Rebuke locks in 3 Zeros. Seems to be the target. A couple of stuns connect onto him and Raffer. Raffer just eats his entire health bar. Too fast to handle. Zeros alone. Aphrodite with snipes and a Hunbats dancing around. Yeah, not much you can do there. Variety goes in, finds Emilito, gets the knock up, and is trying to keep him isolated long enough. But that Bifrost is going to be on a long cooldown, but still gets Emil out of there.
He gets him out just in time for him to hear the death wail of the Gold Fury that goes the way of the Camelot Kings as well. Gold lead now expanded, but the Valhalla Valkyries, no stranger to losing out on the Gold Fury, are able to make the best possible counterplay, which is at least getting a Pyromancer for themselves, is what I would have said had Variety not also been there. This guy is a menace.
Wow.
He's everywhere on the map.
And yeah, but
He's
that's
gonna pull
without
it?
his ult. Yeah, he just walks back over. He's going to start it up. Ducky will see this. We've got Twig here. Jump in. There's going to be the Fear No Evil. They might even get a kill on top of this as the Kings pick up the kill onto the Pyromancer. Ducky just trying to stay alive. That stun is only going to be able to do so much. Separates some space between him and Twig, but Variety's still got the chase down. Variety's Ratatosker. Shield's good to save some health. Variety wants a little bit more. Johnny's around the corner looking for the peel. He'll save Ducky's life, but they still lose both objectives.
Hey, Ducky at least gets a blue buff as a consolation prize. The Camelot Kings get 7,000 gold to their name over their opposition, though. I think they're in a good position to keep maintaining this lead. And the Valhalla Valkyries, this is not a draft that is easy to play from behind. It's an all-in style from Fenrir. It's an all-in style from RDO. Even Ducky on this Odin, sure, great survivability, but it's all in when you decide to engage these fights. And when you're this far down, this early on, you're not allowed to go all in. You have to bring a little bit more nuance to your engagements. You have to route your opposition. And in those scenarios, that's when you're really relying on something like a burst of damage from your mid laner. Maybe a Kraken or a Spirit of the Nine Winds or a Searing Pain, something like that to turn around these engagements. You don't have that opportunity from Aphrodite. No. She is merely a facilitator. And when you're facilitating people that are this far behind, it's pretty hard to do.
And not much of an opportunity for Zeros to make a difference. Granted, similar position as he was in Game 2, or Game 3 there, where the Kronos was split pushing, aside from most of the fights. Zeros, the healing could definitely make a bigger difference for him here. But Johnny's got to be more active, and you got to get a little bit more out of Ducky here. So far, we haven't gotten to see a full 5-on-5 true grouping from these teams. Variety's ult definitely disrupting, I think, the plans the Valkyries have had around any of these objectives and any of these team fights. You had mentioned it earlier, but it's now hovering just a little over 6,000, 6,200 gold in favor of the Kings. With a couple of minutes before we have either Fury or Pyromancer back, they're just looking for blood. They're hanging out here in the jungle. I mean, that could have been a good stun onto Johnny. Raffer's going to have a Fear No Evil. What a good blink to get him out of there. Just to make sure that an ult is wasted there for Twig. Unfortunately, they still find something. Zeros goes down before you can even think about it.
Yeah, Zeros had ultimate, Undying Love. It's a Beads Aegis. He's actually got the real Beads Aegis as well, but doesn't use any of those cooldowns. Beads, Aegis, and Ultimate still available to Zeros. His life, not the same. That goes down, as does his Tier 1 tower, as does his Tier 2 tower.
Wow.
This lead from the Camelot Kings has gotten a lot worse, and it got worse very quickly. And with the Furies respawning very soon, as is the Pyromancer, can only extend their lead. Emelito at least able to put some damage into the Tier 2, but an aggressive leap in from Twig may cost him his beads.
Emelito just trying to stay alive. Bifrost does enough. There's the pickup. This actually might be a good turnaround kill, but here comes Variety to make sure it stays a 1-4-1. Emelito goes down in favor of Twig. Now Johnny is getting picked up just afterward. Good kills for the Kings. It reads 11-4, 19 minutes in. It's been a long road here. The Valkyries have given them some trouble, but they are starting to look at what is potentially the end of the tunnel. This game still has a long way to go. With an 8,000 gold lead, approaching the 20-minute mark, you know they're feeling confident.
They are. Variety essentially washed his hands of the soul lane, said I was born to be a jungler, and is doing exactly that. Sealing away purple buff, rotating over towards the duo lane, sitting 5-1 and 2 on Ratatosker. That's not soul laner. That's not a soul lane slash line. This is just double jungle from the Camelot Kings. Variety split pushing now as well. This guy has been a menace. Variety has woken up in Game 4, and it's looking pretty good.
Split push. Zero, say you're familiar with this side of the map.
Welcome back.
And that tower, unfortunately, this time you're playing defense, will be able to do so up against Variety, but Variety's still got half of that Tier 2. There's already one missing in mid lane, and a little bit of damage onto the one in right as well. So the Valkyries definitely playing defense. 2 towers left standing, still 4 up for the Kings. And still 30 seconds before we've got a Fury back. Just a little over that, about a minute until we get the Pyromancer back. Fire Giant's going to be dancing around. 18 minutes is usually the magic marker. We're 20 and a half in. So the Kings are going to go ahead and start this one up. Dougie spots it out. Raffer's rotating in. But the rest of the team is wide and far from where this objective is started. It's going to be at 1/3 HP, but it is Raffer who is the target right now. Fear No Evil locks down him and Ducky Rivers Rebuke, make sure they can't run away, and they're going to be able to pick up the 2 frontliners for the Valhalla Valkyries. Ducky making sure it lasts a little bit longer. Shield is good. Netroid's chasing him through the wall. Snipes are going to connect 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots, 4. It doesn't matter. Twig is the one who's able to make sure that that kill goes their way. It's a 2 for none. And guess what, Myth? Still the Fire Giant.
Still a Fire Giant, this time uncontested. It's a 2-stack in mid from the Camelot Kings. They found 3.
Yeah, Emilito low, forced back. There's the Undying Love, and it's going to allow him to get out of there. Healing's going to be good. Johnny trying to stay alive throughout all this. Fire Giant for 5 members of the Kings. It looks like there's going to be a successful retreat for most members of the Valkyries. Zeros is left in the one role you don't wish to be. He is going to be cannon fodder for the Kings. Variety looking for the chase down. One good stun is all it'll take to find the kill here. Johnny going for some peel. And Emilito's back over here. I mean, they've got some good damage to turn around. They are chasing Zeros to the ends of the earth, finally able to get the kill. And now, unfortunately, Johnny, Emil, didn't get the back off there. Once again is a good Bifrost to make sure Emil can stay alive. But it feels like they're just hunting for more as they can find another kill onto Johnny here. The Kings lead 15-4. Emil hasn't had the chance to back yet, and Variety wants a little bit more.
Yeah, I think he's going to get it. Is that a triple kill? Legitimate triple kill here for Variety. That was a 2 versus 3 that started in the Camelot Kings Tier 1 tower. That Tier 1 still standing, by the way. Fire Giant on all 5 members, by the way. 16-4 kills, by the way. The Camelot Kings, what is that, 13,000 gold lead as well? Yeah, this is long shot odds, and we saw there the engagement for the Valhalla Valkyries. It was Raffer and Ducky in first. Ducky isolates 2 with Ring of Spears. Doesn't deal any damage to anybody inside of the cage because the rest of his team, the carries rather, were zoned out by Variety the entire time. Audio just dies. The Valhalla Valkyries were split up. They lose both engagements and the objective.
Very similar to last game. I don't know that we've truly seen a 5-on-5 for them just because they were so far apart.
Do they not like each other? They just want to play together.
They could spend any more time further away from each other at this point. Yeah, they're going to have to group up here. Only Phoenix is left for the Valkyries. So once again, the Kings are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. They recognize that they could end this set, get themselves a huge win for this group. Continue pushing forward. Game 2 was a great game for the Valkyries. You might have forgotten it, maybe missed it. Johnny got a pentakill.
Yeah.
Was some absurd, like 12, 2, and 18 or something like that. Now they're going to have to try and figure out what they can do some of that. That's a good kill to start things off. Zeros is able to find the last hit onto Netroid. Variety's looking to come in and jump down. Gets a knock up onto the 2 frontliners for the Valkyries, but they've already stopped what was going to be a very, very painful push. Now they're trying to find their aggression back into this. Johnny is waiting in the jungle. This might be the bait that the Kings are taking.
The Camelot Kings are healthy, though. If this is a bait, it doesn't look great because Raffer's falling down.
Raffer's gone, Emil's half, Ducky's half, but Johnny's in the back line, and he's going on Tings trying to find his way in. But that Ragnarok's finding nothing. Instead, he eats most of his health bar, all of it gone, and that is 2 kills now scooped up for the Kings. They continue running it down. The Phoenix is going to do a little bit of damage in retaliation. Emil, Ducky, Zeros managed to make it out alive. They have to watch the Phoenix go down.
And all 4 members of the Camelot Kings are still relatively healthy. It's only Variety that takes a fair deal of poke in that fight, and, well, you wouldn't be able to tell looking at them just again. I think the Variety is in a great position to just stick around and keep fighting, especially with a Riptide like that.
And you just keep them isolated, keep them locked in. Emil, good knockback, saves his life for a second. Not long enough, though. Zeros goes down. That's a 4-man sweep. Ducky versus the world. Netroids respawn. He's at the tier 2 in mid, trying to run all the way back. Ducky, the last man standing for now. Raffer joins the fray, but Ducky is still isolated and alone. That's another kill for the Kings. And now reads 21-5. They're keeping the 4x mark. They're marching into the Titan room right now with Raffer praying to every god and every pantheon that he could try to make a defense here. Johnny's back. They're going to try to do whatever they can. That Titan's falling too fast, though. They don't have a chance to even get in there. They're looking for the kills. The Kings play with their food and recognize what they have. They get a win, and they take this set.
The Valhalla Valkyries do fall down. It takes 4 games. The second one, a very good look at what the potential of this team is in the future. But the Camelot Kings, they've been playing with their potential for a very long time, and they make it work out here again today.
An incredibly high ceiling there for the Valkyries. Like you said, we get to see it in Game 2. Unfortunately for them, Games 1, 3, and 4 are very far from what Game 2 was. Game 1 was
especially
still
4.
Pretty back and forth. Game 3 started to get away from them. Game 4 was definitely all Kings all time. That's going to do it for this set. We're going to break that down and take a look at the standings and all that right after this.
But he had the horsey, and horsey
Don't you stop! Fido King! Fido King!
I gave up dabbing for Lynn.
Cool. No more dabbing for Final Call.
He looked at me and said, I'm going to be on that stage next year. I'm going to become a world champion.
Ripping through! Titan down, fall 3! A double kill myself!
Takes 4 games, but the Camelot Kings arrive in victory nonetheless. And here's the good news. If royal purple is your color, then shop.smiteproleague.com is your website. The Camelot Kings, all the other 7 teams in the SPL have their jerseys, their unique item. is online there as well. But also, if you're just a fan of the SPL, we've got some stuff for you. Hoodies, T-shirts, jerseys, a whole lot more. Yeah, and don't forget about the joggers, because it's officially that time of year. If it wasn't back in October, it absolutely is now as we move into November and December. It is time to get cozy, sit down, and watch some competitive Smite. Inside Apparel Company, our apparel partner here in the SPL. Shop.smiteproleague.com is where you want to head. Aggro, after a dropped game in Game 2 from the Camelot Kings, back-to-back performances that we expected to see from this team. They get a best-of-5 win here in Season 8, and I think kind of right the ship, right? You lose a game to the Valkyries earlier on. You need to win convincingly in the next 2 to, I think, get some confidence back, and the Kings were able to do so.
Yeah, they bounced back well. I mean, Game 1 wasn't particularly clean from the Kings. Game 2, they really got crushed. And then Games 3 and 4, they look like themselves again, and that's good. But, you know, if I'm Biggie, their coach, I'm probably going in with the attitude of, hey, we can't just send Games 1 and 2 like that. You know, against a team like the Dragons or the Leviathans in your group, you'll be down 2-0. And so obviously that can't continue to be the case. But look, hey, we can take a deep breath. The Kings took care of business. They came in, they played well in these last 2 games. I think they really outdrafted the Valkyries, these last 2 in particular. Variety is starting to look absolutely dominant on this Ratatosker, and if he can really continue to develop this pick like he did the Hell, that changed the meta, and this might as well.
Yeah, Variety's been at the forefront of a lot of those meta changes. SOT comes to mind in that conversation as well. But remember, we talked about the last time we saw this Ratatosker pick. It looked really, really good. It was the one game that the Kings were able to win up against the Leviathans. It was 6-1-8 in that game. It's 10-1-5 here in this game for Variety. And this, unfortunately, is a back-to-standard look for the Valkyries, with Johnny doing a lot of the lifting, some of the other lanes not quite faring as well. So now the Valhalla Valkyries, you got one last matchup against the Leviathans. You have that to look forward to. Still can make some waves, make some changes. But what's important, Aggro, I think, is that the Camelot Kings, ultimately, they get done what they need to get done. They still have a matchup against the Dragons. But if you're looking at Group A, the talking point has been you beat the Valkyries, you're feeling good about your chances of the Phase 3 playoffs, and the Kings were able to do that.
Yeah, Kings are able to do that. They take care of business. I do believe that makes sure that because even if the Valkyries were to beat the Leviathans, they would still have lost the head-to-head up against both the Dragons,
both the other teams,
and the Kings. So yeah, I believe that does seal the deal here for the Valkyries.
Yeah, unfortunate for the Valkyries. They will have a shot at the Smite World Championship later on this year in the placement round, and so plenty of time to grow and improve there. But the Camelot Kings not done yet. Netrioid not done yet. Netrioid with me for the post-game interview. First off, Netrioid, congrats on the big win here, getting yourself your first win in Group A. I want to start with you specifically. In your last 6 games, you've played a pretty wide variety of gods. I think 5 gods in your last 6 games played. As a personal note, has kind of expanding that god pool, being comfortable on maybe every hunter at the SPL level, has that been a point of emphasis for you here in Season 8?
I don't know. I've been just playing like a lot of hunters recently because I just like, trying out, see how it feels, with the build stuff. And apart from that, I feel like hunters are in a kind of good position now where you can like at least try and find out things. But yeah, it's pretty much that. Yeah,
Olarun has been a point of comfort, at least in the hunter role so far here in the group stages. People have loved Olarun, but you didn't get a look at it. Are you sad you didn't get to play any Olarun today?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wanted to play Olarun, Olarun is fun. You get those big grids. You use your one and you are like, oh, I just did like 900 to a carry. So yeah, it's pretty much that.
So maybe some more Olarun for you moving forward. You got one more set up against the Jade Dragons. That's coming up tomorrow. You get the win over the Valkyries, and we'll do all the math behind the scenes, but looking really, really good at your shot moving on to the Phase 3 playoffs. Second seed is now what's on the line. Do you think you have a good chance at beating the Dragons to get second seed here in Group A?
Yeah, definitely. We think we can win against Dragons. We just have to like play clean. We have to fix some errors, maybe early game, maybe mid game. But apart from that, I think we are just fine.
Hey, look, you drop one game in the set and then you bounce back in a big way, winning games 3 and 4. Netrioid, congrats on the win. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Feeling good about their chances, and for good reason. The Camelot Kings, with a look like that, I think, are able to get their feet back underneath themselves and start looking good in their matchups moving forward. I referenced it with Netrioid just now, but the Camelot Kings will be facing against the Jade Dragons tomorrow. But we've got one more big matchup before we get there here today, Aggro, and it's part of a two-game, they're two separate broadcasts, but back-to-back games for the Tartarus Titans, at least as far as the schedule looks here. Tartarus Titans going up against the Oni Warriors, and Group B, and specifically the path and the life in the Phase 3 playoffs for the Oni Warriors, so important. I mean, of course you want to get a win against the Titans, but really plus-minus is going to factor heavily into this. If all these games go as we expect, and the Titans win this one, and the Titans beat the Solar Scarabs, then you're going to have Scarabs at 1 and 2, you're going to have the Oni Warriors at 0 and 2, and you're going to have the Bolts at 1 and 1 before the Oni Warriors play the Bolts later on this weekend. So there's still the potential for a lot of head-to-head tiebreakers, things like that here in Group B. So Oni Warriors want to win in this next matchup, but having it be close and competitive, very important.
Yeah, I mean, the Warriors, they lost the most important matchup, which is between bottom two seeds. They lost that head-to-head to the Solar Scarabs. Scarabs then looked pretty good up against the Bolts, so the Warriors don't want to have to try and put themselves in a must-win position up against the Bolts. They can do a lot by beating the Titans, but that also requires a lot, and I haven't seen anything from the Warriors recently that makes me super confident in that fact.
Agreed. Titans looking like the best team in Group B, despite being the second seed in Group B. A lot of Smite left to be played for both of these teams, but Titans versus Oni Warriors, this is a big one, very important in Group B, coming up right after this break.